Family Immortal Cultivation. Starting as a spiritual farmer, this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1 Ling Pengyun. Yam State, Jingzhou, Huaishu County. In Anyang County, there is a mountain hundreds of feet high that soars into the sky, named Lingxiao Mountain. The mountain is shrouded in clouds and mist, and from time to time, monks with various flying instruments fly out of it, like a fairyland. At this time, on the top of the mountain, a beautiful female cultivator in a green robe rode a graceful white crane and landed outside a courtyard halfway up the mountain, and said hurriedly, "Pengyun, the clan leader summons you to the meeting hall to hold a family council." After saying this, the female cultivator rode the white crane again to the outside of other courtyards halfway up the mountain, and notified several people. In the courtyard, Ling Pengyun sat cross-legged on a cushion, closed his eyes and inhaled the initial sun energy, slowly sending it into the Yin-Yang Sutra in his mind, so that it could nourish the energy of creation. Hearing the movement outside, Ling Pengyun opened his eyes, frowned slightly, and whispered in confusion. Was that the voice of the 15th and just now? Why did the clan leader ask me to go to the meeting hall on the top of the mountain to hold a family meeting? Only the elders can enter the mountain top where the family is located. Ordinary clan members will be blocked by the unique defensive formation on the top of the mountain. Unless there are special circumstances, ordinary clan members may not be able to go to the top of the mountain in their lifetime. Ling Pengyun was confused. However, the clan leader's order must have a reason. Ling Pengyun swallowed the last ray of the early sun's energy, and then slowly finished his work. He has been reincarnated in this world for 16 years. Every morning and evening, he would sit cross-legged in the open space of the courtyard, absorbing the essence of the sun and the moon in nature and transforming it into the energy of creation. This cultivation method that can breathe in and out the early sun and the moon is called Yin-Yang Sutra, which is an ancestral item in his previous life. It was this item that allowed him to reincarnate into this world. After reincarnating into this world, the Yin-Yang Sutra also entered his mind, and this scripture also gave him endless help in this world. The Yin-Yang Key, which absorbs the power of the first sun and the Yin-Yang moon, has an extremely magical effect. Through his own exploration, he also learned that this Yin-Yang Key has a powerful magical effect of changing the spiritual root qualifications of cultivators. Ling Pengyun originally had 5 spiritual roots, and his qualifications were the worst among the countless cultivators in the world of immortal cultivation. This kind of spiritual root is also called pseudo-spiritual root. This kind of qualification can basically only step into the middle stage of key training for a lifetime. However, when he was born in this world, the Yin-Yang Key he carried with him raised his spiritual root qualifications to a level comparable to that of 3 spiritual roots. Ling Pengyun knew the preciousness of this method, so in the past 16 years of reincarnation, he did not even tell his closest parents and kept it hidden in his heart. As for the fact that his cultivation level was improved much faster than that of ordinary 5 spiritual roots cultivators, although it caused a sensation in the family, Ling Pengyun used his own strong ability in sensing spiritual energy to evade the past. At the same time, in the past 16 years, he has never stopped relying on this method to absorb the essence of the sun and the moon in this world of immortal cultivation. In the first 9 years, the yin and yang primordial key that he absorbed from the essence of the sun and the moon was used by Ling Pengyun to pass through his own life spirit plant to improve the qualifications of his life spirit plant. This yin and yang primordial key can only be used once, otherwise he really wants to enhance his qualifications again. From this incident, Ling Pengyun also knew that the effect of the yin and yang primordial scripture in his mind was also limited. In addition, in this life, his family background is also very good. He was born in a family of immortal cultivation Lingxi. His parents are also cultivators, but they are not on the family now, but far away in Yunshu County Yunshufeng City where the original Ling family lived, running a shop to earn cultivation resources for Ling Pengyun. The Ling family is a foundation-building immortal cultivation family. Because it has not been developed for a long time, only 236 years, there are not many cultivators in the family, only 75, but there are more ordinary people, more than 85,000. It is also worth mentioning that the Ling family has a foundation-building ancestor. This ancestor is called Ling Yunhong. He is the first foundation-building cultivator since the founding of the Ling family, and is also the current head of the Ling family. Although the strength of this family is insignificant in the entire cultivation world, it is also worth mentioning in the Huaishu County. However, this is only on the surface. In fact, the entire Ling family relies on the patriarch Ling Yunhong to support it. He has turned the Ling family, a key training family, into a foundation-building family. The clan's current territory in Anyang County, Huaishu County, was also conquered by the foundation-building ancestor Ling Yunhong and his clan members 3 years ago. It was also because of the acquisition of Lingxiao Mountain, which has a second-level lower-grade spiritual vein at that time, that the Ling family became a foundation-building family. Only a family with a foundation-building cultivator and a second-level spiritual vein can be called a foundation-building family. If one of these two requirements is missing, it cannot achieve the name of a foundation-building family. At present, the Ling family's fortune is not good, and the cultivators in the family are in a state of lack of successors. Most of the clan members have poor talents. It is possible that after 100 years, when the current clan leader Ling Yunhong's lifespan is exhausted, it will be difficult to produce new foundation-building cultivators. At that time, the Ling family will return to being a small key training family, evacuate the current Lingxiao Mountain, live on a first-level spiritual vein, and rely on the nearby foundation-building families to survive in this cruel world of cultivating immortals. And Ling Pengyun is a rare good seedling in the family. Because of his yin and yang Taichu Ki, he has improved his qualifications. Now he is only 16 years old, and his cultivation has already broken through to the 4th level of key training, which has surpassed the cultivation of more than 30% of the Ling family members. At the same time, Ling Pengyun also inherited the craftsmanship of the Ling family's ancestors and became a first-level low-grade spiritual plant husband. Since the establishment of the Ling family, it has been famous for planting spiritual plants. In the more than 200 years since the establishment of the family, dozens of spiritual plant husbands born in the Ling family have also improved several kinds of spiritual rice, which has increased the harvest of spiritual rice in the family. Because of these improved spiritual rice, the Ling family has been living a good life, whether it was a key training family or now, as a foundation-building family. Ling Pengyun's current cultivation is not bad compared to his peers. Now, among the Peng generation, there is only one brother with dual spiritual roots, whose cultivation is far superior to his, and the rest of his peers are still hovering in the early stage of key training. Most cultivators lay the foundation before the age of 8 and start formal cultivation after the age of 8. For cultivators from families like the Ling family, who are supported by their families, they can basically get rid of the early stage of key training in this life, but if they want to go further, they still need to look at their aptitude. Of course, there are also some clansmen with really poor aptitude who linger in the early stage of key training all their lives. Among Ling Pengyun's 5 spiritual roots, the water spiritual root is the strongest, so the practice he practices is naturally mainly for the water spiritual root, named Bishuiju. Thinking back, Ling Pengyun stood up, pushed open the gate of the courtyard, and walked slowly towards the top of Lingxiao Mountain along a wide road. Lingxiao Mountain is a spiritual mountain with a second-grade lower-grade spiritual vein. There are not many such spiritual mountains, even in the entire Huaishu County, and there are only 5 spiritual veins of this grade. 3 years ago, this place was the territory of a group of key training monsters, the Gale Demon Wolf, among which the Wolf King of the Wolf Pack had the foundation-building cultivation. Later, it was killed by Ling Yunhong, the head of the Ling family, who occupied this precious land of spiritual veins and moved the Ling family cultivators and ordinary clansmen who were originally living on a first-grade upper-grade spiritual vein below the Yunshu County Yin-Yang family. From then on, the Ling family officially became a well-known foundation-building family. At the same time, the Huaishu County where the Ling family is now located is also the territory of Bailingmen, one of the 5 major giant sects of Yan State. 3 years ago, the Huaishu County that was snatched from the monsters and opened up, including Jingzhou, which was only opened up in recent decades, was also conquered by countless cultivators led by Bailingmen. Otherwise, with a family as powerful as the Ling family, it would be difficult to seize territory from the ferocious monsters in the boundless swamp. Chapter 2 Family Meeting. The spiritual energy at the bottom of Lingxiao Mountain is relatively thin, and the higher you go, the denser it is. Halfway up the mountain, The spiritual energy is denser and the place is spacious, so the clan leader Ling Yanhuang opened up a huge flat land here for the clan members to build courtyards and caves for cultivation. Going up further, it is the top of the mountain. In addition to the meeting hall, there are more than 10 acres of spiritual fields of the first level or higher grade opened up by Ling Yanhuang, a second-level spiritual plant master. It is even said that there are second-level spiritual fields. As for whether they really exist, it is not something that Ling Pengyun, a clan member in the middle stage of key training, can know. Before Ling Pengyun reached the top of the mountain, he saw an old man with white hair and a hunched body standing at the entrance of the defense array on the top of the mountain waiting. This man is called Ling Ruda, the elder of the Ling family, who is in charge of the family's general affairs hall and commands all family affairs. 11th great-grandfather. Ling Pengyun bowed and said politely. The family cultivators highly respect etiquette, and when the younger generation sees the elders, they must perform the etiquette of the younger generation. Pengyun, wait here for a while. You still have a few clan brothers who haven't arrived yet. Ling Ruda smiled kindly at Ling Pengyun and said kindly. Hearing this, Ling Pengyun was even more curious and asked with doubt. Anyone else? Ling Ruda said with a smile. Yes, kid, don't ask. When everyone is here, go to the meeting room and the clan leader will answer you. Seeing this, Ling Pengyun had to give up. Not long after, the 15th aunt Ling Yangxi, who had previously called Ling Pengyun to the meeting room on the top of the mountain, came here riding a graceful crane. Ling Pengyun was quite envious of this scene. It can be said that having a flying monster beast is the wish of all low-level cultivators, especially a crane monster beast with an excellent appearance. 11th uncle, I have informed everyone the clan leader has called. Ling Yangxi jumped off the crane, waved his hand and put the crane into a small pink cloth bag hanging from his waist, walked to Ling Ruda and bowed. Okay. Ling Ruda said. 15th aunt. Ling Pengyun bowed. Ling Yangxi heard the greeting and looked at Ling Pengyun. There was a trace of heartache in his expression. He sighed softly and nodded slightly, as if he was not in a good mood. This situation really made Ling Pengyun, who was full of doubts, even more confused. After a while, 4 people of the Peng generation, who were the same as Ling Pengyun, came to the entrance of the mountain top. These 4 people of the Peng generation were all Ling Pengyun's brothers. Their cultivation was at the 2nd or 3rd level of key training. None of them was at the 1st level of key training. Their cultivation aptitude was also good. It can be said that this group of people are the backbone of the Ling family in the future. This situation made Ling Pengyun feel that the situation was not good. At this time, the great elder Ling Ruda said, Everyone is here, follow closely, don't walk around. After saying this, Ling Ruda took off the family token hanging from his waist, which represented the Ling family, and let it float in the air, and cast a special seal on it. As soon as the seal entered the token flashed with spiritual light, rippling a green ripple, touching the light curtain covering the top of the mountain. The light curtain trembled slightly, and a large gap appeared at the entrance of the road. Ling Ruda and Ling Yangxi walked side by side, first stepped into the light curtain through the gap, and Ling Pengyun and others followed closely, not daring to make any unnecessary movements. Following the road, they soon reached the top of the mountain, but the top of the mountain was covered by a cloud that could block the divine consciousness. Ling Pengyun, a cultivator in the middle stage of key training, was like a blind man, and could only see a few inches away. This also made Ling Pengyun couldn't help but get close to the leader Ling Ruda, fearing that he would get lost in the mist. Although getting lost in the mist was not dangerous, it was too embarrassing to get lost in your own home. After following Ling Ruda and Ling Yangxi into the meeting hall, Ling Pengyun found that although there were only a few figures sitting in the meeting hall, the atmosphere in the meeting hall was extremely heavy. Patriarch, everyone has been brought. Ling Ruda informed, and then took Ling Yangxi to sit at the chairman's table in the meeting hall. Hello, elders. Ling Pengyun was smarter and was the first to salute and speak. After him, the other 4 members of the Peng generation also spoke. Sitting at the long table in the meeting hall were all high-level Ling family members, including the main patriarch Ling Yanhuang, the first elder Ling Ruda, the second elder Ling Ruxin, and the 5th elder Ling Yangxi. The generation name of the Ling family is the ambition of the rising sun reaches the sky, and the journey is endless. Among the clan members alive today, there are only 4 generations of Ru, Yun, Zio, Peng. Among these 4 generations, The clan members of the Ru generation are the least, and there are only more than 10 left to this day. The Ling family has a total of 6 elders. In addition to the 3 elders in this meeting room, there are 3 elders in the outside world. Among them, the 3rd elder Ling Yunfeng is stationed in the Lingxiao Pavilion in the only market in Huaishu County, Huaishu Market, drawing talismans. He is also the only first-class upper-grade talisman master for the Ling family. The 4th elder Ling Yunfu is good at business. He is stationed in the Huaishu Market and manages the business of the 2 shops belonging to the family, Lingxiao Beibao Pavilion and Lingxiao Fu Pavilion. The 6th elder Ling Yunqian manages the safety of the family's convoys going to and from Huaishu Market, and is often not on the family. I called you here because I have something important to discuss with you. The clan leader Ling Yunhong said in a deep voice. Just tell me, clan leader. Ling Pengyun, as the most senior person of the Peng generation here, responded cleverly. Then I'll be frank. Our family moved from the Yang family's territory in Qingshi Mountain, Luoyang County, Yunchu County, to Anyang County, Huaishu County 3 years ago. In addition to our Lingxiao Mountain, we have also occupied many spiritual veins. Recently, the family has also killed all the monsters occupying the low-level spiritual veins in Anyang County and successfully recovered the spiritual veins of the entire Anyang County. Our Ling family has been established for only more than 200 years, and there are not many cultivators. In addition, we still have spiritual veins and shops in Yunchu County, which have taken away many family members. Therefore, the family is now in a situation where there are spiritual veins but no cultivators to manage them. I discussed with the 3 elders present, and I plan to send you out of the clan mountain in advance to work for the family to occupy and manage the 4 newly occupied first grade lower grade and 1 first grade middle grade spiritual veins for a period of 5 years. Are you willing? Ling Yunhong said to the 5 family members of the Peng generation, standing at the door of the conference room, with a trace of reluctance and a negotiating tone. When Ling Pengyun heard this, his doubts immediately disappeared, and he said to himself, so it's just for this matter. As for going out to work for the family, he had thought about it countless times since he reached the 4th level of key training a year ago. He was very much looking forward to what the magnificent and cruel world of immortal cultivation described in the various travel notes of the Gongfa Pavilion was like. Chapter 3 Additional Salary. However, in order to protect the young seedlings in the clan, the family leaders had established clan rules as early as when the clan was established more than 200 years ago. Only when the clan members reached the age of 18 could they leave the family. If they went out without permission, they would be severely punished. Therefore, Ling Pengyun had to give up the idea of leaving the mountain. Such clan rules are also a way to protect the seedlings in the clan. Although Ling Pengyun was very happy about this, the faces of the other 4 Peng generation clan members present changed drastically. They had heard a little about the cruelty of the immortal cultivation world from their elders. They also knew how weak the strength of the initial stage of key training was. Even the monsters in the initial stage of key training could kill them. If they were not careful, they would be wiped out in the outside world. In addition, most of the spiritual energy in the low-level spiritual veins stationed outside was used to supply the spiritual fields opened up on them. The spiritual energy was extremely thin. If they were stationed in them and wanted to improve their cultivation, they could only rely on spiritual stones, elixirs, and other spiritual objects to practice. If they only relied on the thin spiritual energy to practice, the progress of their cultivation would definitely be very slow. Under these 2 problems, they were somewhat reluctant to go out and guard Lingshan several years in advance. Ling Yunhong, the head of the Ling family, had already mastered the art of observing people's expressions. Seeing the expressions of the people of the Peng generation, he knew that this would be a bit difficult for the 5 younger people of the Peng generation in front of him. Therefore, in order to dispel their concerns, he released a huge reward and spoke. This is also a helpless move. I hope you can understand the family's current predicament. The family cannot watch the 5 first-grade low-grade spirit veins in the territory go unoccupied, and no one develops spirit fields and plants spirit objects on them to create income for the family. The family also knows that, except for Pengyun, the 4 of you are only at the 2nd or 3rd level of key training, and it is difficult to exert much strength. We shouldn't have let you out of the mountain gate in advance to work for the family, but the family is really short of manpower. Therefore, if you are willing to go and garrison, the family will give you 3 first-grade middle-grade attack talismans and 2 first-grade middle-grade defense talismans for self-defense for free. The salary of the family members stationed outside to garrison those spirit veins is the same as that of ordinary members of the family stationed outside to garrison the sacred mountain, which is twice the original salary. In addition, each of you can get an extra key training pill every month. As soon as these words came out, the eyes of Ling Pengyun and the other 5 members of the Peng generation suddenly lit up. With the help of the spiritual talisman to make up for their own combat power deficiencies, and with the valuable spiritual stones and key training pills for cultivation, it was not impossible to go out and guard the Qingshi Mountain. Although Ling Pengyun was quite tempted, he did not intend to be the first to speak up and agree, putting the other 4 members of the family in an awkward situation. He turned around and cast inquiring eyes at the other 4 brothers. When they all agreed, he turned around and said to the 4 family leaders at the chairman's table, "Junior Ling Pengyun is willing to accept the family's commission, leave the clan mountain in advance, go out to work for the family, and guard a spiritual vein. Junior Ling Pengyun is willing to accept the family's commission. Junior Ling Peng, the 5 members of the Peng generation present spoke one by one to express their agreement. I am a good son of the Ling family. Among the 5 of you, only Pengyun is a spiritual plant husband of the 1st grade. Among the 5 newly occupied spiritual veins, the only 1st grade middle grade spiritual vein has opened up 6 acres of spiritual fields, and Pengyun, who is a spiritual plant husband, is stationed there. The other 4 newly occupied spiritual veins are not much different. You can choose them by yourself." Ling Yanhuang waved his hand and took out 5 distribution maps of the spiritual veins occupied by the Ling family in Anyang County, handed them to the 5 clan members of the Peng generation present, and arranged them. Ling Pengyun and the other 5 had no objection to this arrangement. It is not a good thing to manage a lot of spiritual fields. Moreover, only spiritual plant husbands are really good at planting spiritual plants. After the other 4 clan members of the Peng generation chose their resident places, the meeting gradually came to an end. Except for Ling Pengyun, who was left alone, the other 4 clan members of the Peng generation were taken down the mountain by the great elder Ling Ruda. The clan leader Ling Yanhuang on the main seat said in a deep voice, "Pengyun, I hope you don't have any intention in the family's arrangement this time. Although your spiritual roots are not good, you have a very good sense of spiritual energy. You are also the only one in Peng's generation who can catch up with Pengxing. However, the spiritual energy of the newly occupied middle grade spiritual vein is rich, and there are many spiritual fields that can be developed. Only spiritual plant husbands can take care of such a large number of spiritual plants. The family is short of manpower, and the spiritual plant husbands in other places also have important tasks. In the family, you are the only spiritual plant husband who is idle. Helplessly, you have to be dispatched, but don't worry, the family also knows that you will manage a large number of spiritual fields in the future, and it will take a lot of time to take care of the spiritual plants in them. I am afraid that it will delay your cultivation time. Therefore, your salary can be increased by 2 more yellow bud pills suitable for your cultivation level. I hope you don't tell this matter, so as to avoid other family members having doubts. In addition, according to the family's welfare for the 1st level lower grade spiritual plant husband, you can enjoy a 10% dividend when the spiritual rice planted in the spiritual field is harvested. Of course, this dividend requires your own efforts. If the harvest of spiritual rice does not meet the requirements, there will be no dividend. The spiritual plant husband can use secret methods to speed up and increase the harvest of spiritual plants. Among them, increasing the harvest of spiritual plants is the most conspicuous on spiritual plants such as spiritual rice. Ling Pengyun was delighted to hear that there were additional benefits. Huangaidan is a 1st level medium grade cultivation elixir. After taking it, it is of great benefit to Ling Pengyun's cultivation. As a cultivator, Ling Pengyun naturally knows that resources are indispensable for cultivation. He will not dislike more cultivation resources, not to mention Huangaidan, a cultivation elixir, and spiritual plant dividends. At the same time, he also understands that he has been valued by the family because of his faster cultivation speed. Even if he is only a 5 spiritual root in the eyes of outsiders, otherwise, why would the senior leader do this? Is it because he is a spiritual plant husband? As an old family of spiritual plants, the Ling family has many spiritual plant husbands. Ling Pengyun has never heard of any 1st level lower grade spiritual plant husband who has received such treatment. Of course, if there really is one, he may be warned like Ling Pengyun not to spread it. Ling Pengyun said with a smile, "Patriarch, you are too kind. I was trained by the family, so I am a member of the family. It is my duty to do things for the family. Besides, I also want to go out and take a look at the family mountain. Such a reply really satisfied the senior leaders of the Ling family present. The family liked such people with high qualifications, high awareness, and cohesion to the family the most. Yes, we didn't misjudge you, Ling Yanhong said with a smile. Then, Ling Ruxin, the second elder with a broken arm who had not spoken at the meeting room, took out 2 books from his storage bag and used the object control technique to hand them to Ling Pengyun. Pengyun, this is the 5th and 6th level of the subsequent Bishuju, as well as the 2nd level of the Lingxiao Ripening Technique, the most important spiritual plant secret method in the inheritance of my Ling family's spiritual plants. In the future, when you go out to the clan mountain to guard the low-level spiritual veins for 5 years, if you have a breakthrough in cultivation and spiritual plants, you can also reduce the time to return to the clan to ask for them. I will give these 2 things to you first, but you must remember that you must not pass on the subsequent exercises of Bishuju and Lingxiao Ripening Technique. Once you do, you will be punished according to the family rules. When Ling Ruxin said the last 4 words, Ling Pengyun could clearly feel that Ling Ruxin exuded a monstrous murderous aura. This murderous aura was invisible, but it made Ling Pengyun's mind tremble. Ling Pengyun muttered in his heart, if these 2 exercises were really passed on, I'm afraid. He couldn't help but recall the rumors about the second elder in front of him who was serious and rarely interacted with the clan members. Chapter 4 Earthworms. It is said that the second elder Lingru was first a sword cultivator who learned a sword formation and had killed hundreds of cultivators with it. He even fought against 3 perfect cultivators with his 9th level of key training. His broken arm was lost when he was away from home for decades. It is said that he killed a descendant of a foundation-building cultivator and angered another foundation-building cultivator, which led to his arm being cut off. After a moment of stunned silence, Ling Pengyun came back to his senses and took the 2 books floating in the void in front of him with a solemn look. This Bishuju is Ling Pengyun's main practice method. It can be regarded as a superior key training method and one of the must-learn methods for Ling family spiritual plant cultivators. It has been improved by the Ling family for more than 200 years, and there are many notes on the practice experience of the predecessors. As for the Lingxiao Ripening Technique, it is a spiritual plant secret technique that can speed up the growth of spiritual plants. It was gradually improved by dozens of Ling family spiritual plant cultivators through the common spiritual plant secret method ripening technique, and the effect is also much stronger. These 2 books can be said to be important parts of the Ling family. Once they are passed on, the efforts of the ancestors of the Ling family will be wasted. If they are passed on, Ling Pengyun naturally knows the importance of such things. 13th great-grandfather, the younger generation will definitely not pass this thing on. I, Ling Pengyun, am willing to make a heavenly oath. If the green water secret and Lingxiao ripening technique are passed on, it will be difficult to make any progress in this life. In order to reassure the family's top leaders, Ling Pengyun made a heavenly oath without hesitation. The heavenly oath has a strong restraining power for cultivators who have a heart for the Tao and good potential. If they violate it, they will have a demon in their hearts, and they will even be suppressed by the heavenly way, which will slow down their progress in cultivation. As for violating it, it is only an exaggeration to say that it is really difficult to make any progress in cultivation. Ling Pengyun's actions also won the praise of Ling Ruxin, who spoke again in a cold voice. You have a good character. I heard that your spiritual awareness is far superior to that of the cultivators of the same level. When you break through to the late stage of key training, come to the Gongfa Pavilion to find me. I have an opportunity to give you. Ling Pengyun was delighted and thought to himself, it can't be the sword formation that my 15th great-grandfather knew. When Ling Ruxin was young, he went out to practice and obtained a sword formation. The requirements for practicing the sword formation are extremely high, but the power is also extremely strong. There are only 3 people in the entire Ling family who have practiced this sword formation. One is Ling Ruxin himself, and the other 2 are the clan leader Ling Yunhong and the first genius of the Peng generation, Ling Pengxing. 3 years ago, the clan leader Ling Yunhong, who was at the 3rd level of foundation building, relied on this sword formation to destroy the foundation building Wolf King of the Gust of Wind Wolf pack occupying Lingxiao Mountain. Ling Pengyun naturally admires things that can enhance strength, and the ability to send out dozens, hundreds, and thousands of sword beams at the same time with a wave of his hand is also what Ling Pengyun, a fan of fairy novels in his previous life, dreams of. Ling Ruxin only had this sword formation, which could be considered an opportunity. Apart from that, Ling Pengyun had not heard of any other skills or legends about Ling Ruxin. Ling Yanhong, who was sitting on the main seat, was slightly moved when he heard what Ling Ruxin said, but he did not care about it and just called Ling Pengyun back. Okay, Pengyun, you go down first. We have something important to discuss. The next day, you will receive the control array of the mountain protection array of the Qingshi Mountain in the family's general affairs hall, and then go to the place where you need to be stationed according to the spiritual vein distribution map. Ling Pengyun received the signal and naturally did not dare to stay any longer. He hurriedly walked down the mountain along the path he came from. On the way, he also met Ling Ruda, 11th great-grandfather. Ling Pengyun greeted. Ling Ruda had just sent someone down the mountain and was not on the meeting room, so he did not hear what Ling Pengyun said in the meeting room just now. Therefore, he could not avoid Ling Pengyun's disagreement with the family's arrangement, so he explained it again. Pengyun, this is a helpless move by the family. The spiritual plant is popular in the family. You are the most talented person in the spiritual plant in the family. The clan leader sent you out this time. In fact, he also intends to train you. My position. At this point, Ling Ruda stopped talking and did not finish. However, it was not difficult for Ling Pengyun to guess what Ling Ruda was going to say. He was immediately excited. Ling Ruda's position was the chief elder of the family. Apart from the clan leader, he was the most powerful person. Becoming a high-ranking member of the family was the small dream of all the cultivators in the family. The big dream was to build a foundation. Ling Pengyun's dream was naturally the same. Great-grandson, don't think much. It is our duty to work for the clan. Ling Pengyun said. You kid are still using this official language with me. In this beast bag, there are 3 earthworms of the innate perfection realm. They were taken from the high-level spiritual field area on the top of the mountain. It can be regarded as adding a helper for you to take care of the first-level middle-grade spiritual vein in the outside world in the future. Although Ling Ruda was quite satisfied with what Ling Pengyun said, he still laughed and scolded. He took out a beast bag from his arms and handed it to Ling Pengyun. Since Ling Pengyun was discovered by the family's spiritual plant talent, Ling Ruda has been with him and taught him spiritual plants. Therefore, the two are very familiar with each other and have a closer relationship. Earthworms. Ling Pengyun looked at the beast bag in his hand with some disbelief. Yes, these 3 are carefully selected for you by me. They have good qualifications and have the opportunity to break through to the key training realm. Well, I still have to go to the meeting room to discuss matters. When you go out of the clan mountain this time, don't forget to read the family's Lingxiao Spiritual Plants Sutra every day. When you come back in 5 years, I will test you again. After saying this, Ling Ruda left quickly. Ling Pengyun watched Ling Ruda's figure disappear, then he lowered his head and looked at the storage bag in his hand, his expression slightly happy, thinking of another meaning. Earthworms have always been precious. Even though the family has been passed down for more than 200 years, there are only about 100 of them. They are extremely precious and have been kept for personal use. Now my 11th great-grandfather has given me 3 of the innate perfect earthworms. I think he must have received the approval of the clan leader. In the meeting room, Ling Yanhong, who was sitting in the main seat, saw Ling Ruda sending people back and said solemnly, Everyone, now that our Ling family has become a foundation-building family, the number of spiritual veins we occupy has increased by dozens of times. If we only rely on planting spiritual plants for a living like we did when we were a key training family, it will be difficult to support the growth of the family. At most, it can only satisfy our Ling family's basic needs, but we will also stop moving forward. Now there are 2 paths before our Ling family. The first is to rely on our own duties and plant sword star grass, promote the spiritual talisman that our Ling family is already good at, increase the training of spiritual talisman masters in the family, and search for the inheritance of second-level talisman makers, make a living with spiritual talismans, and after 100 years, achieve the reputation of a spiritual talisman family. The second is to plant the main medicines for refining pills such as key training grass, yellow bud grass, and green spiritual grass, seek the inheritance of alchemy, and train alchemists. After 100 years, achieve the reputation of an alchemy family. Everyone, you all know the pros and cons of these 2 paths. As for the talisman, among the 5 foundation-building families in Huaishu County, there is already a talisman family, and that talisman family is much stronger than our Ling family. Once my Ling family also relies on talismans, we will definitely conflict with him. Moreover, the talismans drawn by my Ling family in the future may not be as good as those of the talisman family with a second-level talisman maker. As for alchemy, although more spirit stones can be earned, there is no family that relies on this path, mainly among the 5 foundation-building families in Huaishu County. But the problem is that my Ling family only has a first-level lower and middle-grade alchemy inheritance. With this inheritance, it is difficult to strengthen the alchemy masters of my Ling family, let alone become an alchemy family that relies on alchemy as the main method. Everyone, which of these 2 paths do you think should be chosen? Ling Yanhong has already analyzed the pros and cons of the 2 paths clearly. Not only did he not know how to choose, the other 3 elders present were also a little hesitant. Both paths have pros and cons, and they frowned and thought carefully. The meeting room was immersed in the discussion for half a cup of tea. The elder Ling Ruda, who was in charge of the family's miscellaneous affairs and resource mobilization on weekdays, suddenly spoke up and said firmly, "I have an idea. I will go to the Yang family of Qingshi Mountain, a famous alchemy family in Yunshu County, my Ling family's relatives, to buy a set of second-level alchemy masters' inheritance. At the same time, I will also increase the cultivation of spiritual talisman masters in the family. Cultivate both at the same time. This will consume a lot of family resources." The 5th elder Ling Yangxi was the first to object. "For the alchemy and talisman making, our family can grow the main medicine and talisman making grass by ourselves. We have planted them in previous years. At the end of last year, we still have a lot of them that have not been sold. As for the talisman and for the talisman making, the family can form a demon team to go out and hunt demon beasts and refine them with demon beast blood. The auxiliary medicines needed for refining pills can also be bought with a few spirit stones. The family only needs to spend more spirit stones on the alchemy furnace and talisman pen, that's it." Ling Ruxin, who has been in charge of the family's finances for many years, had a plan to deal with it and spoke up. "It's feasible, let's do it this way." Clan leader Ling Yanhong thought for a while and agreed with Ling Ruda's words. The clan leader agreed, and no one dared to object. Then, in the second half of the meeting, they began to discuss in detail which clan members should be focused on training in the 2 fields of talismans and alchemy. Chapter 5 Bluestone Mountain. The next day, Ling Pengyun and 5 other Peng clan members gathered in the General Affairs Hall to receive the control array plates of the protective arrays they needed to guard their spiritual veins, 5 first-level medium-grade spiritual talismans, 1 first-level high-grade 1000 transmission talisman, spiritual plant seeds to be planted in the next year, salaries for the next 6 months, and spare spiritual stones for their respective spiritual veins to open protective arrays. Afterwards, Ling Ruda warned them one after another not to forget the cruel description of the world of immortal cultivation that they learned in the clan school when they were young, not to trust independent cultivators from the outside, not to go out and garrison in sacred mountains at will, and not to underestimate the enemy in battle. Also, the 5 spiritual veins that you are stationed at this time are the family's newest territories. There may be some fish that have slipped through the net and monsters that have not been cleared out by the family. In addition, our Anyuan County is adjacent to the Jiamang Lake 300,000 miles away, and there is only the Huaishu market between the 2. On weekdays, there will definitely be many monsters sneaking into the family's territory. You must be careful when you are stationed there, and don't save the talismans given to you by the family. If you are defeated, you should send a message for support in time. Ling Ruda was very worried about Ling Pengyun and the other 5 young clan members of the Peng generation, fearing that they would encounter accidents that would lead to life or death. He gave them detailed instructions for a long time before letting them go. The 5 spiritual veins that Ling Pengyun and his 5 companions were stationed at were not far apart in distance and were all in the same direction, so they traveled together. It was precisely because these 5 spiritual veins were close in location that they were taken back from the monsters by the family at the same time. The place where Ling Pengyun was stationed was a first-level intermediate spiritual vein, and was named Qingshi Mountain by the family. Qingshi Mountain was more than 2,000 miles away from Lingxiao Mountain. It was also the farthest spiritual mountain among the low-level spiritual mountains that needed to be stationed, and it was located at the border of Anyuan County. Even though Ling Pengyun, who had reached the minor success level of light body skills and could travel 1,000 miles a day, it took him 2.5 days to reach Qingshi Mountain. As for the other brothers who left the mountain together, they all parted ways halfway. Is this Qingshi Mountain? This light curtain should be the Qingshi Mountain protective array Wu Tuliang Yi array that my 11th great-grandfather mentioned. Standing at the bottom of the mountain, Ling Pengyun looked at a Qingshi Mountain that was dozens of feet high and was covered by a huge yellow light curtain. He was surprised and muttered to himself. Qingshi Mountain is as its name suggests. The entire mountain is dozens of feet high and looks like a huge blue boulder. Of course, there are also many small blue stones in Qingshi Mountain, but they are relatively few. Because there is not much soil in the mountain, there is not much vegetation, but as long as the vegetation grows in this mountain, it grows very well because of the spiritual energy in the mountain. When Ling Pengyun saw that there were many holes the size of arms in Qingshi Mountain, he thought of what Ling Ruda told him. It is said that Ling Ruda said that before this mountain was occupied by the family, it was a snake cave with many snake monsters. Later, the clan leader led the clan members to besiege this mountain. They besieged and killed the snake monsters in this mountain for several days before they were killed. The hundreds of large holes in the mountain were obviously the nests opened by the demon snakes that occupied the mountain before. The light curtain covering Qingshi Mountain was transformed from the Qingshi Mountain's mountain protection magic array, Wu Tuliang Yi array. As long as the prohibition is entered into the array, even if there is no one to control it, as long as there is enough spiritual energy, the array can be open all the time. This is the case with the current Wu Tuliang Yi array. Before coming here, Ling Ruda informed Ling Pengyun about the situation of the Wu Tuliang Yi array in Qingshi Mountain. This array is a set of first-level medium-grade offensive and defensive magic arrays. The center of the array is composed of two first-level top-grade magic tools, namely the Rock and Earth Bell for main defense and the Heavy Earth 1000-pound hammer for main attack. The array can not only use spiritual energy, but also use the power of the earth veins to exert amazing power. The function of the Rock and Earth Bell is naturally to rely on the array to transform into a light curtain. The Heavy Earth 1000 Jin hammer accumulates the power of Wu Earth and can attack 9 times in a row. The power of the first attack is as heavy as 1,000 Jin, and then increases by thousands of Jin. By the 9th attack, it can reach a power of 9,000 Jin. The power of each attack is beyond the ability of ordinary mid-stage key training monks to resist. The power of the last 4 attacks can even threaten or kill late-stage key training monks. However, this Wu Earth Liang Yi formation is only a first-level medium-grade formation after all, and it only corresponds to mid-stage key training monks. To be able to exert such power, it also needs to rely on time to accumulate the power of Wu Earth. It takes 9 years to accumulate enough Wu Earth power for the formation to reach the stage of complete victory. As for the reason for opening up the formation now, it is also very simple. It is mainly to prevent the monsters in the surrounding area that have escaped the catastrophe and the Ling family monks from being attracted by the spiritual energy here and reoccupying this battle mountain to avoid other troubles. There is a small lake beside Qingshi Mountain, which Ling Pengyun named Qingshi Lake. The water in the lake is so clear that you can even see fish swimming in it. From time to time, some birds fall from the sky and prey on the fish in the lake. Ling Pengyun has made many observations about Qingshi Lake. This Qingshi Lake has no upper stream, only one lower stream for drainage. The lake water only flows out but not in, but the water in the lake does not decrease. It should be connected to the underground river. The water quality in this lake is not bad. There are many fish in it. The surrounding area of the small lake is also flat. It can be developed into fields to grow food and build a place to live. It is a good place to build a village. Ling Pengyun said carefully. In the past, although Qingshi Mountain was located in Anyang County of Ling's family, it was occupied by monsters, so the ordinary people of Ling's family did not come here to develop. Now that the demon beasts in Qingshi Mountain have been eliminated, in order to make good use of every piece of territory in the territory and develop more ordinary people, the family will soon dispatch a group of ordinary people from the Ling family to come here to open up Wasteland. The other 4 first-level low-grade spiritual veins occupied by the Ling family at the same time as Qingshi Mountain will also be used to dispatch ordinary people to live and open up Wasteland. Ling Pengyun saw that the living environment around Qingshi Mountain was relatively good, and he felt relieved. If there was no environment suitable for ordinary people to live around Qingshi Mountain, it would be troublesome. Maybe they would have to build a village several miles or even dozens of miles away from Qingshi Mountain. In the future, if the village is attacked by demon beasts, Ling Pengyun may not be able to provide timely support. Demon beasts, like cultivators, can sense the breath of spiritual energy. There are often many demon beasts that break into the human territory from various wild mountains and even from the hundreds of thousands of territories of Jiayamang Lake, eating mortals and attacking spiritual mountains. In order to avoid the possibility of monsters lurking around Qingshi Mountain, Ling Pengyun searched the area within half a mile around Qingshi Mountain. During this search, Ling Pengyun actually found a snake monster in the Xianshan realm. However, before finding out whether there were other snake monsters of the same kind, Ling Pengyun did not kill it immediately. Instead, he pressed his aura on it, causing it to be terrified and flee in panic. Snake monsters in the Xianshan realm have no brains and are no different from ordinary beasts, except that they are stronger. That is why the snake monster fled in a hurry after being frightened by Ling Pengyun, and finally entered a very hidden bush, a deep underground cave several feet wide. Chapter 6 Spirit Ho. Beasts are beasts after all. Do you think you can be safe if you go home? Ling Pengyun said sarcastically. He released his spiritual sense and went deep into the deep cave in the bushes. He found 5 life breaths in it, and the corners of his mouth turned up slightly. He patted the storage bag on his waist, summoned a black long sword from it, and injected spiritual power into it. The black long sword turned into a black light and shadow, and rushed into the cave. Only the sound of snakes roaring was heard. After a few breaths, the cave was silent, and the black long sword also brought out 5 headless snake demon corpses. The Xianshan realm is only a mortal realm after all. Even if it is only the key training realm, it can be killed at will. These 5 snake demons must be the fish that slipped through the net when the family strangled the Qingshi Mountain snake demon group. If I hadn't run into the snake demon that went out to hunt before, it would be a bit difficult for me to find this hidden place. I don't know how many remaining snake demons are in this area of Qingshi Mountain. Ling Pengyun frowned immediately. The consciousness of the 4th level of key training is not strong enough to be released for long. If you want to rely on the consciousness to go 3 feet underground and search the half-mile area of Qingshi Mountain, it will take more than 10 days or even a month. Ling Pengyun can't afford this time. But the snake monster's nest is hidden in more than 10 feet deep underground. The naked eye can't find the snake monster's trace. It seems that this search can only be handed over to the ordinary innate warriors among the ordinary people who will move to the vicinity of Qingshi Mountain soon. After making up his mind, Ling Pengyun put the 5 headless snake monster bodies on the ground into the storage bag and left the place. He wandered around Qingshi Mountain for a few more laps. Seeing no movement, he returned to the bottom of Qingshi Mountain. He tapped the storage bag hanging on his waist and took out a bowl-sized array plate from it. As soon as he took out the array plate, Ling Pengyun threw it into the air and it was suspended. Then, he took out another cushion, sat cross-legged, and poured his spiritual consciousness into the array disc suspended in the air to refine it. When he refined the array disc, the blazing sun in the sky had already set and night fell. Ling Pengyun saw that it was late and the moon was rising, so he quickly absorbed the power of the first moon. Then, according to the method taught by Ling Ruda to control the array disc of the Wu Earth Liangai array, he pinched the magic formula with both hands, silently recited a series of difficult spells, condensed a special yellow magic seal, and hid it into the array disc. The array disc flashed with spiritual light, and the defensive light curtain covering Qingshi Mountain seemed to be sensed and shook slightly. Collect. Ling Pengyun saw that the array disc was connected to the Wu Earth Liangai array, the mountain protection array of Qingshi Mountain, and the magic formula in his hand changed. The voice fell, and the array was closed. The huge light curtain covering Qingshi Mountain suddenly dissipated. Ling Pengyun made hand gestures and added a light body technique to his body. He tapped his feet lightly on the cliffs of Qingshi Mountain, just like the light kung fu and martial arts novels in his previous life. He floated to the top of Qingshi Mountain. The top of a Qingshi Mountain is about 10 feet wide. There is nothing else except 6 acres of spiritual fields and stone land. The stone land on the top of the mountain is extremely flat, and can even be described as smooth, as if it was cut flat by a sharp sword. This mountaintop is also the place with the most abundant spiritual energy in the entire Qingshi Mountain, and it is also the place where Ling family open up spiritual fields. Here, the 6 acres of spiritual fields are all first-grade low-grade spiritual fields of Ding level. There are no spiritual plants planted in them, but only spiritual fields have been opened up. The reason for this is that no one will be stationed here for a short time. If the spiritual seeds planted are left unattended, it may not be good for the future growth of the spiritual seeds, so no spiritual seeds have been planted. It was late at night, and it was pitch black all around, with extremely low visibility. Ling Pengyun took out 4 bright pearls for lighting from his arms and placed them in 4 directions on the top of the mountain. Under the illumination of the bright pearls, the dark mountain top was illuminated and visibility was better. Today is just the first day of February. There are only 11 months left before the family sends people to collect the spiritual plants harvested this year at the end of the year. Time is running out. I will work harder today and plant those spiritual seeds first, so as not to miss the family to send people to collect the mature spiritual plants 11 months later at the end of the year. If it matures a little later and no one from the clan comes to collect it, I'm afraid I can only send the mature spiritual plants back to the clan mountain by myself. Ling Pengyun planned secretly. The distance between Qingshi Mountain and Lingxiao Mountain is too far. It takes at least 5 days to go back and forth. He doesn't want to run back and forth later, which will not only affect his cultivation, but also affect the care of the spiritual plants here. Ling Pengyun waved his hand and patted the storage bag on his waist, and took out 3 small cloth bags filled with different spiritual plant seeds, and a spiritual hoe given by Ling Ruda before leaving the clan mountain. These 3 small bags of spiritual plant seeds are all seeds of first-level low-grade spiritual plants, namely the seeds of yellow jade spiritual rice, talisman-making grass, and key training grass. Each kind of spiritual seed is just enough to plant 2 acres of spiritual fields. The spiritual hoe is a must-have for a spiritual farmer. The soil contained in the spiritual field contains spiritual energy, which is harder than ordinary soil. If you use an ordinary hoe, it will be more difficult to dig the soil and plant spiritual seeds. At the same time, ordinary hoes do not contain spiritual power but are sharp. When digging small pits in the spiritual field and planting spiritual seeds, the spiritual soil in the spiritual field will often be damaged. When the spiritual soil is damaged, the spiritual energy in the spiritual field will be reduced, which will also affect the growth of spiritual plants. The inconvenience of the two combined, there is this spiritual hoe as a magic weapon. The spiritual hoe is also a magical tool. When using it, the spiritual plant husband only needs to inject spiritual energy into it. When digging spiritual soil, the spiritual hoe will automatically emit a slight shock wave, which can slightly push away the spiritual soil touched by the hoe blade, so as to achieve the situation of not losing spiritual soil but digging a small pit. Ling Pengyun's spiritual hoe is of the first grade lower grade. It was given by the family when he became a spiritual plant husband. It can be regarded as an investment in Ling Pengyun. When Ling Pengyun got it in his early years, he was also very happy. The spiritual hoe is extremely important to the spiritual plant husband. If it were not a reward from the family, he would have to buy it himself. A first-grade lower-grade spiritual hoe is expensive. Because of its wonderful use, the price is about 30% higher than the price of an ordinary first-grade lower-grade flying sword magical tool. The market price is about 40 spiritual stones. This amount of spiritual stones is enough to equal his 8-month salary, and it is also equivalent to the spiritual stones earned by his parents working hard for the family for half a year. Ling Pengyun has now entered the 4th level of key training, and his monthly offering is 5 spiritual stones and 10 kilograms of green jade spiritual rice. Because he is away from home to guard the spiritual vein, his offering is doubled, and he can also get an additional family subsidy of 1 key training pill and 2 yellow bud pills. Ling Pengyun transferred his spiritual power to the spiritual hoe in his hand, and carefully dug out small pits in the 6 acres of spiritual fields. For each pit dug, Ling Pengyun would bury a spiritual seed. There are too many spiritual fields here. Although the spiritual power required to activate the spiritual hoe to release micro-shock waves and clear the spiritual soil during digging is not much, it takes a lot of time because of the carefulness. It was not until the sun rose that Ling Pengyun planted the 3 small bags of spiritual plants that Ling Ruda gave him in the 6 acres of spiritual fields. Chapter 7, Cloud and Rain. Finally planted. Now is the time for me to condense the yin-yang Taichu Qi. Ling Pengyun wiped the sweat from his forehead, looked up at the sky, and saw the red sun rising, muttering to himself. He took out the cushion from the storage bag, sat cross-legged, absorbed the power of the first sun, and slowly condensed the yin-yang Taichu Qi. When the first sun rose higher and higher, Ling Pengyun opened his eyes after absorbing the last breath of the first sun. That half-mouthful of yin-yang Taichu Qi is getting more and more. According to the past, it took 9 years to continuously absorb the power of the first sun and the first yin to accumulate a mouthful of yin-yang Taichu Qi. In 2 years, I estimate that I can condense another mouthful of yin-yang Taichu Qi, But I don't know what I should use my yin-yang Taichu Qi for. Ling Pengyun said in distress. The yin-yang Taichu Qi condensed by the Yin-Yang Taichu Sutra is not omnipotent and can only be taken once. Now, he and his life spirit plant have both passed through a breath of yin and yang primordial energy, and have received the yin and yang primordial energy that he will condense in the near future without an object. Ling Pengyun was thinking about the scene of the fifth elder Ling Yangxi riding a crane at the entrance of the Lingxiao Mountain Avenue that day. Spirit beast. Yes, it is a spirit beast. When I find a good spirit beast in the future, I will pass it a breath of yin and yang primordial energy to enhance its qualifications and make it a great help for me. Ling Pengyun had a smile on his face. As a helper of the cultivator, the spirit beast is of great help to the cultivator. At this time, Ling Pengyun thought of something, turned his head and looked at the dry 6 acres of spiritual field beside him, frowned, and thought to himself that it was not good. Forgot to rain. When the spirit plant seeds are just buried in the soil, it is best to apply a wave of spiritual rain in time. The gentle spiritual rain with water spirit energy can stimulate the newly buried spirit seeds, which can accelerate the germination of the spirit plant seeds. This is a little trick that the Ling family, a family of spiritual plants, has learned after planting spiritual plants for more than 200 years. With this little trick, it is enough to shorten the germination time of the spiritual plant seeds by several days, or even more than 10 days, which is also a good thing. Ling Pengyun can hope that the 3 kinds of spiritual plants in the 6 acres of spiritual fields, which usually take a year to mature, will mature in advance at the end of the year, that is, within 11 months. He hurriedly stood up, pinched a series of magic formulas with his hands, and silently chanted a spell to condense a blue magic seal. Condense. As soon as the magic seal was formed, Ling Pengyun held it above the 6 acres of spiritual fields and turned it into a white cloud. Fall. Ling Pengyun changed his fingering and said secretly. In the white cloud, drops of spiritual rain transformed by spiritual power suddenly fell. Drops of spiritual rain fell on the dry spiritual fields, as if everything was rejuvenated, giving the spiritual fields a few traces of vitality. However, due to Ling Pengyun's limited cultivation, the cloud and rain technique he performed could only cover 2 acres of spiritual fields at the same time and bring down spiritual rain. So he could only cast the cloud and rain spell 3 times in a row to irrigate the 6 acres of spiritual fields. When casting the cloud and rain spell, he could not stop, and he still needed the spiritual planter to continuously inject spiritual power. This also made Ling Pengyun, who cast the spiritual rain spell 3 times in a row to irrigate the 6 acres of spiritual fields, consume a lot of energy. In addition, he was on the road and searching for monsters in the surrounding area yesterday, and the spiritual power in his dantian was less than 30%. The cloud and rain spell is a secret method of the spiritual planter, and only the spiritual planter can cast it. Ling Pengyun, who had little spiritual power left, originally planned to absorb the spiritual energy of this mountain to restore his spiritual power, but he could feel the rich spiritual energy in this Qingshi Mountain. Because the spiritual seeds were planted in the spiritual field, they were absorbed by the 6 acres of spiritual fields, nurturing the seeds to germinate, and it was difficult to absorb even a little. Even opening the mountain protection array was difficult to open with spiritual energy. If he really wanted to open the mountain protection array, he could only consume spiritual stones and activate the array. He was a little helpless for a while, muttering to himself. It is indeed as hard as the elders of the clan said to be stationed in the spiritual mountain. It is impossible to absorb the spiritual energy from the spiritual veins for cultivation. All of it is used to nurture the growth of spiritual plants. I can only rely on the spiritual energy in the spiritual stones or pills for cultivation. But fortunately, the clan has subsidies for clan members who go out to guard low-level spiritual veins. The monthly salary of spiritual stones has doubled. If it weren't for such benefits, I'm afraid no one would be willing to take the job of guarding low-level spiritual veins. The doubled salary, and the clan will give me 1 more key training pill and 2 huangaya pills every month to help me. My cultivation speed should not be slower than when I am in the clan mountain and absorb spiritual energy. It may even be a few points faster. Thinking of this, the helplessness on Ling Pengyun's face disappeared immediately. 1 key training pill and 2 huangaya pills per month. This is something Ling Pengyun never dared to think about before. Even though his parents would send him 10 spirit stones every month to help him buy cultivation resources, the first-grade medium-quality huangaya pill was too expensive, worth 5 spirit stones per pill. On weekdays, Ling Pengyun would only buy 1 pill per month to save money. I can't forget the help from my family. I am bound to the Ling family for my whole life, and my parents are also members of the family. I can't give up my family's feelings. If I can enter the foundation building stage, I will definitely help the family prosper. Ling Pengyun vowed to himself. As for whether he could build a foundation, he was not sure, even though his qualifications had been improved by the yin and yang primordial energy and reached the 3 spiritual roots. But the 3 spiritual roots were only considered medium qualifications. There were several people with 3 spiritual roots in the Peng generation of the Ling family alone. In the past generations of the Ling family, there were at least 30 people with 3 spiritual roots, if not 50, but none of them succeeded in building a foundation. Now, the patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Yunhong, is also a double spiritual root cultivator. It was just that the foundation building matter was too far away for Ling Pengyun, and he was too lazy to think too much about it, which would affect his state of mind. Throwing away these distracting thoughts, Ling Pengyun thought of something. I almost forgot the 3 treasures that my 11th great-grandfather gave me. Ling Pengyun took out a beast-controlling bag from his arms, transferred spiritual power into it, and poured out 3 giant earthworms that were as thick as fingers and 5 feet long. Ordinary earthworms do not have such a huge body. As soon as the 3 giant earthworms came out of the beast-controlling bag, they felt the familiar breath of Ling Pengyun, and felt at ease, and even took the initiative to crawl towards Ling Pengyun. Seeing this scene, Ling Pengyun's mouth corners slightly raised, and he muttered to himself. The behavior of these 3 earthworms that my Ling family cultivated by themselves should be the result of the blood cultivation of my Ling family's secret method. They can feel the blood of my Ling family members and will have a sense of intimacy with the Ling family members. My 11th great-grandfather did not lie to me. These 3 earthworms have indeed reached the realm of innate perfection. They are only 1 step away from entering the realm of key training. Earthworms are a kind of spiritual beast that can improve the quality of spiritual soil in spiritual fields. They are extremely precious. On the market, an earthworm in the innate realm can be sold at a high price of more than 50 spiritual stones. There are nearly 100 earthworms in the Ling family. Although most of them are in the innate realm, many have entered the immortal path. There's even an earthworm king in the realm of key training perfection, which is only 1 step away from being promoted to the realm of foundation building. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8: The Role of Earthworms. This earthworm king can actually be said to be the Ling family's spiritual beast. It is precisely relying on these nearly 100 earthworms that the quality of the spiritual soil in many of the Ling family's spiritual fields has been improved, allowing the Ling family to continue safely for more than 200 years in this cruel world of cultivation because of spiritual plants when it was still a key training family. Without this earthworm, there would be no Ling family. You must know that in this world of cultivation, there are very few key training families that can continue for more than 200 years, not to mention that they can survive until the birth of a foundation-building cultivator in the family and take the family away from the key training family. The quality of the spiritual soil can affect the growth rate of the spiritual plants planted in it. Each grade of spiritual field can be divided into 4 levels according to the quality of the spiritual soil: A, B, C, D. The spiritual soil of grade D is the weakest, and the spiritual soil of grade A is the strongest. Spiritual soil of grade D can only guarantee the survival of spiritual plants, but spiritual soil of grades A, B, and C can accelerate the growth of spiritual plants. Grade C can accelerate the growth of spiritual plants by 10%, grade B by 20%, and grade A by 30%. And this earthworm can devour the spiritual soil and purify the quality of the spiritual soil in a special way. Of course, using earthworms to improve the quality of spiritual soil is only one of the ways. In addition to this method, there are 2 other ways to improve the quality of spiritual soil. They are to mobilize the spiritual energy on the spiritual veins to purify the spiritual soil, and to use the spiritual energy in the spiritual stones to purify the spiritual soil. However, the latter 2 methods are too consuming and impractical. Unless they are in a hurry to upgrade the spiritual soil, no one will use them as a last resort. Since the family has given me these 3 earthworms, I will tame them, so that I can command them to purify the 6 acres of spiritual fields in Qingshi Mountain in the future. Ling Pengyun would not think that the family gave him 3 earthworms simply because he practiced faster and was valued by the family. This must be only one of the reasons. The second reason is obviously to let Ling Pengyun use the 3 earthworms to purify the quality of the spiritual soil in the 6-acre spiritual field of Qingshi Mountain. The first level middle grade spiritual vein is rare even for the Ling family, which occupies more than 10 spiritual veins. If you take the benefit, you must pay. As a cultivation family, the Ling family has long considered that the clan members may tame monsters into spiritual beasts in the future. In the family clan studies, the prohibition of the method of taming spiritual beasts was passed on to the clan members early. Ling Pengyun grew up in the clan since he was a child, so he naturally knew this restriction. He summoned a jade bowl from the storage bag, shot out a blue spiritual light, cut his wrist, squeezed out blood, and flowed into the jade bowl. When half a bowl of blood flowed, Ling Pengyun used spiritual power to stop the wound. Then, he silently chanted a difficult spell, and pinched his hands to emit spiritual energy. It took a full 10 breaths to condense 3 blue special seals. As soon as the seal was formed, Ling Pengyun waved his hand to draw the blood in the jade bowl in front of him, dividing it into 3 parts and merging them into the 3 suspended blue seals. With the influx of blood, the blue seal gradually turned blood red, without a trace of blue light. It's done. Ling Pengyun changed his finger technique and said in a deep voice. The 3 blood-red seals lit up at the same time and flew into the 3 earthworms nestled at Ling Pengyun's feet. The 3 earthworms did not resist the influx of the blood-red seals, and remained so docile. Without their resistance, the progress of the master recognition restriction was a little faster. After a few breaths, Ling Pengyun felt that he had established a special connection with the 3 earthworms. This feeling was like the 3 earthworms were his hands and feet. Go to that acre of spiritual field to devour the spiritual soil, condense spiritual energy, and purify the quality of the spiritual soil. Ling Pengyun planned to try to see if the master recognition restriction was successful, so he pointed to the nearest acre of spiritual field and said. The 3 earthworms nestled at Ling Pengyun's feet received the signal, nodded slightly, and very obediently crawled slowly towards the spiritual field Ling Pengyun pointed to, twisted their bodies, and burrowed into the spiritual soil in the 1-acre spiritual field, swallowing the spiritual soil into their stomachs one mouthful at a time, purifying the quality of the spiritual soil in a special way. These 3 earthworms are quite well behaved. With the cultivation of these 3 earthworms in the innate realm, it should take at most 3 months to purify the grade D spiritual soil of this acre of spiritual field to grade C. With the current cultivation of the 3 earthworms, if the quality of the spiritual soil of these 6 acres of spiritual fields is purified to grade C one by one, it should take less than 1.5 years. I hope that these 3 earthworms can advance to the key training realm by swallowing the spiritual soil during this period. It is also good for me to purify the spiritual soil in these 6 acres of spiritual fields to grade B spiritual soil during the 5 years I am stationed here. In this way, I will be worthy of the family giving me these 3 earthworms. Ling Pengyun thought secretly. Seeing that the 3 earthworms had gone deep into the spiritual soil and disappeared, Ling Pengyun looked away. He looked at the top of the mountain. There was nothing else except 6 acres of spiritual fields and stones, and there was no place to live. His brows were slightly frowned. During the 5 years of living in this Qingshi Mountain, it seems that I have to do it myself to find a place to live. Since there are no trees on this mountain, only some vegetation, in order to save time, Ling Pengyun used local materials, patted the storage bag on his waist, took out the black iron sword from it, and dug a cave 3 feet deep and 1 foot high on the hillside of Qingshi Mountain. Ling Pengyun did not have too many requirements for living, as long as it could shelter from the wind and rain and sleep. Although the black iron sword was sharp and could chop ordinary stones in Qingshi Mountain like tofu, it could still consume all the spiritual power in Ling Pengyun's body when using this magic weapon to open this cave. The black iron sword was a first-level medium-grade magic weapon. It was a gift from his father Lingxiao when Ling Pengyun broke through to the middle stage of key training. Because there was no spiritual power left, Ling Pengyun hurried into the cave, took out the futon and a spiritual stone, sat down, and practiced the green water technique to absorb the spiritual energy in the spiritual stone in his hand to restore the spiritual power in dantian. In order to avoid the monster beasts being attracted by the spiritual energy of Qingshi Mountain during this period, and he has no strength to resist. Today's Qingshi Mountain can be protected by no defensive formation. If a monster beast is encountered, Ling Pengyun is the main combat force. If the attacking monster beast is strong, he can use the 20 spiritual stones received from Ling Ruda to open the Wu Tu Liang Yi formation of Qingshi Mountain. If the formation is opened frequently, the 20 spiritual stones will not be able to support the formation for a long time. It took 4 hours and consumed nearly half of the spiritual energy of the spiritual stone in his hand. Ling Pengyun finally filled up his dantian. Without the worry of spiritual power, Ling Pengyun opened his eyes, took out a large earthenware jar from the storage bag, and carefully placed it in the deepest corner of the stone cave. Then, he took out another earthenware jar from the storage bag, opened the large earthenware jar, took out 2 taels of green jade spiritual rice from it, and put it in the earthenware jar. The large earthenware jar is a 1-meter jar, which contains a lot of spiritual rice as transparent as green jade. Chapter 9 Planning for Legal Revision. This spiritual rice is called Qingyu spiritual rice, and its grade is the first level middle grade. It is improved by Ling family based on water spiritual rice, including the first level lower grade yellow jade spiritual rice and the first level upper grade white jade spiritual rice. They are all unique to Ling family, commonly known as the jade series of spiritual rice. Not only does the harvest far exceed the same level water spiritual rice, but the spiritual energy contained in the spiritual rice is also stronger than that of water spiritual rice. This Qingyu spiritual rice contains a lot of spiritual energy. It is effective for cultivation and can also fill the stomach for cultivators in the middle stage of key training. There are a total of 120 kilograms in the rice jar, which is the spiritual rice in Ling Pengyun's salary for the next 6 months. Ling Pengyun pinched his fingers with one hand, summoned a ball of clear water, and dropped it into the earthenware jar to wash the spiritual rice. After washing it 3 times in a row, Ling Pengyun closed the lid of the earthenware jar. Then, he took out the body of one of the 5 innate realm snake monsters that he had killed before from the storage bag, peeled and washed it several times, and threw it into the air at the same time as the earthenware jar, summoning 2 balls of red flames. One of the flames wrapped around the earthenware pot, cooking the spiritual rice inside, while the other flame roasted the snake meat. Not long after, waves of tempting rice and meat aromas wafted out, making Ling Pengyun, who was already hungry and had not eaten for a whole day, swallow his saliva. After removing the flames, he summoned a jade bowl and used the object control technique to open the lid of the boiling earthenware pot. A mist suddenly dispersed, and when the mist dissipated, a can of crystal clear green corn rice came into view. Each grain of green corn rice was distinct, as if it was carved out of green jade, like a work of art. This green jade spiritual rice looks like this. It doesn't look like rice at all, it's completely like a work of art. The ancestor Lingzu who improved the 3 types of jade series spiritual rice, unique to the family, is really a god. Ling Pengyun admired the ancestor who improved the 3 types of jade series spiritual rice very much, and was secretly amazed. Basically, every time he cooked the jade series spiritual rice obtained from the offering, Ling Pengyun, who was also a spiritual plant husband, would feel something. Improving a spiritual plant, benefiting the family, and lasting for hundreds or even thousands of years is the wish of every spiritual plant owner in the family, and Ling Pengyun is no exception. If I can also improve a first-level medium-grade spiritual rice, no, as long as I can improve a first-level low-grade spiritual rice, I will be satisfied in this life. Ling Pengyun sighed. I have been stationed for 5 years, why don't I tinker with it again? If I can't build a foundation, I can leave an improved spiritual plant for the family, and it won't be in vain to go to the world of cultivation. In the past, when Ling Pengyun followed a family elder Ling Ruda to learn about spiritual plants, he often tinkered with improving spiritual rice, a spiritual plant that can be mass-produced, but there was no progress, and a lot of water spiritual rice seeds were wasted in vain. With the idea, Ling Pengyun immediately made up his mind. If it can really succeed, one of the 3 jade series spiritual rices of the Ling family will also be replaced with Ling Pengyun's improved spiritual rice. The name Ling Pengyun will also be passed down in the Ling family, becoming a figure like Lingzu, the founding ancestor of the family. With thousands of imaginations, Ling Pengyun smiled and then remembered to eat. The 2 taels of green jade spiritual rice cooked in the earthenware pot were just enough for 2 bowls. Although the snake meat was only in the innate realm and had no spiritual energy, it tasted extremely delicious. I have to try to make snake soup for a meal in the future. Ling Pengyun felt the extreme deliciousness of the snake meat in his mouth and sighed secretly. Ling Pengyun was already hungry. After eating a bite, he wanted to eat the second bite. A bite of snake meat and a bite of rice, he ate happily. After 3 or 5 bites, he ate the 2 bowls of green jade spiritual rice with full rice fragrance. Comfortable. Ling Pengyun burped. Calling out clear water, washing the jade bowl and the earthenware pot for cooking rice, Ling Pengyun immediately closed his eyes, running the exercises, refining the green jade spiritual rice that he had just eaten in his stomach, and improving his cultivation. Even though the green jade rice in his stomach was completely refined, Ling Pengyun did not stop practicing the technique. Instead, he grasped the spiritual stone that had been placed on the ground and still had half of its spiritual energy, absorbing the remaining spiritual energy. After practicing for more than 10 great cycles, the spiritual stone turned into decay and no longer had any spiritual energy. Ling Pengyun then stopped practicing. He opened his eyes and gently squeezed the decayed spiritual stone, which turned into white ash. Relying on spirit stones for cultivation, the consumption of spirit stones is really too great. Fortunately, the family subsidized me with a bottle of Huangaya Dan. Otherwise, if I rely solely on spirit stones for cultivation, I am afraid that the 10 spirit stones I get from my monthly salary will be consumed and it will be difficult to save them. When I was still in the family, my 11th great-grandfather once said that this Qingshi Mountain had just been occupied by monsters not long ago, and there might be remnants of monsters in the surrounding area. In addition, this Huaishu County was snatched and developed from monsters 3 years ago. It is close to the Shujiao Lake where countless monsters gather. There is only a Huaishu market between the county town and the Shujiao Lake. I am afraid that on a daily basis, many monsters will attack Anyang County and my Ling family and wander around this Qingshi Mountain. In the future, when mortals move to the vicinity of Qingshi Mountain, there may be situations where monsters attack villages and eat mortals. I have to increase my comprehension of spells to enhance my combat effectiveness, so as to prepare for monsters wandering around Qingshi Mountain in the future. Ling Pengyun planned secretly. With a goal in mind, Ling Pengyun immediately closed his eyes and began to comprehend the water arrow technique. In his early years, Ling Pengyun swallowed the yin and yang primordial qi, which not only strengthened his spiritual root qualifications, but also strengthened his spiritual consciousness, comprehension, etc., which was an all-round enhancement. This also made him not only have a spiritual consciousness far superior to the cultivators of the same level, but now his cultivation level of the 4th level of Qi training is comparable to the 6th level of Qi training. His comprehension is also excellent, and he has a very high talent in comprehending spells, especially water spells. He doesn't know many water spells, only 2, but he is proficient in them, namely the 1st level low-grade water thorn technique and the 1st level medium-grade water arrow technique. Although the cloud and mist technique is also a water spell, it is in the category of spiritual plant secrets. He comprehended the former to the perfect state, and the latter only took a year to comprehend and reach the small success state. According to the power of the spell and the time of casting, it can be divided into 4 realms: entry, small success, great success, and perfection. According to the knowledge passed down in the Ling clan, under normal circumstances, the first 3 realms of magic can be comprehended as long as time is spent, but the perfect realm of being able to cast spells in an instant requires extremely high magic talent. In the Ling clan, there are no more than 10 people who can practice a magic to the perfect realm. As for being able to comprehend 2 perfect realms of magic, there is only 1/3 Elder Ling Yunfeng among the more than 70 cultivators in the entire Ling clan. Because of this talent in magic, Ling Pengyun has planned to take the path of magic cultivation far beyond ordinary cultivators since he entered the Tao. To be called a magic cultivator, at least 3 perfect realms of magic must be mastered. And when a magic reaches the perfect realm, it can be cast in an instant. As for this magic cultivation, there is also another nickname called Magic Turret. Chapter 10 Sprouting. The 3rd elder of the family, Ling Yunfeng, is a cultivator who specializes in fire magic. He is extremely powerful. With his perfect Qi training, he is strong enough to fight against 3 cultivators of the same level. He was famous when he was young. This person is also Ling Pengyun's current target. Comprehending magic consumes a lot of energy for cultivators. However, after 2 hours of comprehending the water arrow technique, Ling Pengyun was tired and had to stop comprehending. He waved his hand and patted the storage bag on his waist, and summoned one of the 3 bottles of key training pills that Ling Ruda gave him when he left home. He poured out a key training pill from it, swallowed it, and practiced the skills to refine the power of the key training pill and improve his cultivation. In this process, Ling Pengyun's fatigue was also baptized and he gradually recovered his spirit. During this period, Ling Pengyun waited until night fell and absorbed the power of the moon for a while. It was not until the next morning, when the sun was rising, that Ling Pengyun stopped refining the medicinal power in order to absorb the power of the early sun. He left the cave and absorbed the power of the early sun for a while, then went to the top of the mountain and cast a wave of spiritual rain on the 6 acres of spiritual field 3 times. Then he returned to the cave and continued to refine the remaining medicinal power of the key training pill. He continued to practice, comprehend spells, and cast rain for 3 days until the medicinal power of the key training pill was completely refined. Ling Pengyun then stopped. This low-grade key training pill is still not very helpful for my current realm. But it's better than nothing, and it's much faster than absorbing spiritual stones to practice. Ling Pengyun felt the improvement in his cultivation level from refining the key training pill he had swallowed before in the past 3 days, and muttered to himself, "When I left the clan, my 11th great-grandfather gave me 6 key training pills for half a year. I have used 1 now, and there are 5 left. I can refine 1 every 3 days, which is enough for the next 15 days of practice." Ling Pengyun took out another key training pill from his storage bag, swallowed it, and closed his eyes. 7 days later, 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice seeds in the 6 acres of spiritual fields on the top of Qingshi Mountain were the first to grow yellow sprouts. In a cave halfway up the mountain, Ling Pengyun, who was practicing, was startled by the sound of the yellow jade spiritual rice sprouting from the soil and absorbing the spiritual energy of Qingshi Mountain. He quickly stopped practicing and went to the top of the mountain. Seeing that the yellow jade spiritual rice had indeed sprouted, Ling Pengyun was very happy and a smile appeared on his face. Now these 2 mu of yellow jade spiritual rice have sprouted, and can withstand my Lingxiao ripening technique to speed up their growth. Lingxiao ripening technique was improved by dozens of spiritual plant masters over the past 200 years since the founding of the Ling family. It was based on the common spiritual plant secret method ripening technique, so it was named Lingxiao ripening technique. This spiritual plant secret technique is also the most important thing that the Ling family has passed down. This method is related to the advancement of spiritual plant masters. At the same time, using this method can also increase the growth rate of spiritual plants. Mastering the first level of Lingxiao ripening technique can speed up the growth rate of first level low-grade spiritual plants by 30%. The second level of Lingxiao ripening technique can speed up the growth rate of first level medium-grade spiritual plants by 60%. The third level, 90% growth rate. Although the Ling family's spiritual plant inheritance goes straight to the second level, because there has never been a second-level spiritual plant master in the family before, only the first 3 levels of ripening technique have been improved. Ling Pengyun was only a first-class low-grade spiritual plant husband, so naturally he could only master the first level of Lingxiao ripening technique. However, he had already cultivated this first level of Lingxiao ripening technique to perfection, which was enough to accelerate the growth rate of first-class low-grade spiritual plants by 30%. Ling Pengyun's expression was slightly condensed, and he stopped smiling. According to the method of ripening technique, he pinched his hands to condense a special green seal. Disperse. The green seal's spiritual charm flashed, and suddenly dispersed, turning into a thick green mist. Under Ling Pengyun's control, it merged into the 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice in the 6 acres of spiritual field that had sprouted first. Under the influx of green mist, the color of the sprouts of the yellow jade spiritual rice became darker, and it was really like its name, shaped like topaz. It has been like this for nearly a cup of tea. Ling Pengyun felt the pure wood spirit energy injected into the 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice sprouts, reaching the limit they could bear, and then stopped. If he continued to inject, it would damage their foundation and encounter the harm of pulling up seedlings to help them grow. Although the ripening technique and the cloud and mist technique are both secret methods for spiritual plants, they are somewhat different. The ripening technique uses a strong medicine method, and a lot of wood spirit energy is injected into the spiritual plant at one time, so it is best to use it on the spiritual plant once every 3 days. The cloud and rain technique uses a long-lasting and continuous flow, nourishing the growth of spiritual plants with water spirit energy, so it can be used on spiritual plants every day. The former has a stronger effect, while the latter can only increase the growth rate of spiritual plants by 10%. Ling Pengyun stopped performing the Lingxiao ripening technique and saw that the 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice sprouts had grown a lot taller with the help of the ripening technique, and his expression was slightly happy. Based on my previous experience of following my 11th great-grandfather in taking care of the 10 acres of topaz spiritual rice in the back mountain of Lingxiao Mountain when I was still in the clan mountain, with the help of 2 spiritual plants secret techniques, the cloud and rain technique and the Lingxiao ripening technique. As a first-rank lower-grade spiritual plant husband, the yield of these 2 acres of topaz spiritual rice should be around 800 to 900 kilograms per acre. And it will definitely mature within 11 months. Ling Pengyun said happily. According to what the clan leader promised me, I can get 10% dividend from the mature yellow jade spiritual rice harvest, which means I can get at least 160 kilograms of yellow jade spiritual rice. If I sell it on the market, I can get at least 32 spirit stones. Calculated in this way, this out-of-town garrison is actually not a bad thing for a spiritual plant husband like me. On the contrary, it is a great opportunity to earn spirit stones and some extra resources for cultivation. That means I can earn 3 more spirit stones every month. In addition, when I go out to the clan mountain, the offerings double to 10 spirit stones. That means 13 spirit stones, 1 key training pill, 2 yellow bud pills, and 20 kilograms of yellow jade spiritual rice per month. With the help of such resources, I'm afraid my cultivation speed will be several times faster than when I was in the clan. It's good to be a person of 100 arts, even if I'm the slowest spiritual plant husband to earn spirit stones among the 100 arts. Under normal circumstances, the yield of 1 acre of yellow jade spiritual rice is about 700 kilograms per acre, and 5 kilograms can be sold for 1 spirit stone. The ordinary first-grade low-grade water spirit rice has an output of about 1,000 caddies per mu, but it does not contain much spiritual energy. Only 10 caddies can be sold for 1 spiritual stone. Even for casual cultivators, only those with extremely tight financial resources will buy this kind of spiritual rice to fill their stomachs. If you want to compare the yield, just plant the rice in the mortal world. With the help of the cloud and mist technique, the yield per mu can reach at least 2,000 caddies. As for the other 4 mu of key training grass and sword star grass, there is no dividend, because no matter how Ling Pengyun uses the spiritual plant's secret method on them, it can only speed up their growth. 1 mu of spiritual field can only plant 100 key training grass and sword star grass, and it will not increase the harvest like spiritual rice. This is why, as a spiritual plant husband, Ling Pengyun does not have any dividends from these 2 spiritual plants. Ling Pengyun has no objection to this. It is good to have a dividend from spiritual rice, and he is satisfied. After calculating, the smile on Ling Pengyun's face became brighter, and he even laughed out loud. After a long time, Ling Pengyun finally regained his composure. He performed a secret technique to find out when the spiritual plants in the other 6 acres of spiritual fields would sprout. Knowing that they would not sprout soon, Ling Pengyun was too lazy to return to the cave halfway up the mountain. He sat cross-legged beside the 6 acres of spiritual fields and refined the remaining medicinal power of the key training pill in his body. After half a cup of tea, the key training grass and sword star grass planted in the other 4 acres of spiritual fields also sprouted one after another. This also made Ling Pengyun feel at ease. He was more confident that the 3 spiritual plants planted in the 6 acres of spiritual fields could mature in advance within 11 months. For example, if the 3 spiritual plants, such as the yellow jade spiritual rice, key training grass, and sword star grass, wanted to sprout, it would normally take about 20 days. Now that they could be advanced by 5 days, Ling Pengyun was naturally very happy. He also understood that this was the credit of the cloud and mist technique that sent down the spiritual rain to irrigate every day. After he used Lingxiao's ripening technique on the key training grass and jiangxing grass in the 4 mu spiritual field one by one, Ling Pengyun called out the 3 earthworms that were in the field, swallowing the spiritual soil into their bodies and purifying the spiritual soil. Seeing that they were fine and indeed obedient and not lazy, he left the top of the mountain and returned to the cave halfway up the mountain. Chapter 11 Ling Ruguo. On the 15th day after Ling Pengyun arrived at Qingshi Mountain, a huge convoy drove over from afar. Ling Pengyun, who was originally refining the last key training pill in a cave halfway up Qingshi Mountain, was startled by the sound of the convoy. He stood up and walked to the entrance of the cave, narrowing his eyes and looking at the convoy coming from a few miles away. Seeing that each ox cart and horse carriage in the convoy was holding a long flag embroidered with rice patterns and the word Ling Pengyun's mouth was slightly happy. These should be the ordinary people dispatched by the family from nearby villages and towns. There are quite a lot of people. Judging from this posture, there should be more than 3,000 ordinary people. He glanced at the convoy and saw that the wooden carts pulled by the tall horses in the convoy were all loaded with bags of things, so he guessed. Those big bags should contain nearly a year's worth of food for the mortals. In the coming year, even if the mortals who moved here work hard every day, it will be difficult to grow food quickly. They can only bring food from other places to survive the first year of moving here. By the second year, they will be self-sufficient. At first glance, Ling Pengyun looked at the white-haired old man who was riding a black horse and wearing the Ling family's Taoist robe, with spiritual energy floating on his body and a dead look on his face, and his expression paused. The family actually pulled the great-grandfather who has a short lifespan to help. From this point of view, the family is probably not just short of people. But on second thought, the Ling family, which was originally only dependent on a foundation-building family, now has such a large county. It is normal that they are short of manpower. The third great-grandfather who is protecting the convoy was the most senior person in the Ling family. Ling Pengyun did not dare to put on airs, and quickly cast a light body technique on his body and went to meet the approaching convoy. The third great-grandfather was named Ling Ruguo, and he was 109 years old. He had one foot in his coffin and would not live for many years. Although the maximum lifespan of a Qigong cultivator was 120 years, it was only the maximum lifespan. In this cruel world of cultivating immortals, fighting was unavoidable. Basically, every cultivator had some hidden injuries on their bodies. Many cultivators were killed before they even reached the age of 60. Living past the age of 100 was actually considered a great blessing. As for wanting to live to the maximum lifespan, I'm afraid only the descendants of those with high cultivation skills would have this blessing, or those who specialized in practicing the technique to prolong their lifespan. Ling Pengyun, who had cast a light body technique, only needed to tap the ground to slide down a few meters in the air. After a while, he was close to the convoy. Ling Pengyun's immortal tricks also attracted the attention of many ordinary Ling family members in the convoy, and many of them cast envious glances. In the eyes of ordinary people, becoming an immortal not only means having supernatural tricks, but also having a huge fortune, increasing lifespan, and pursuing immortality. Naturally, these ordinary people envy him. Ling Pengyun felt a little proud of these looks, and had a feeling of being the center of attention like a star in his previous life. However, this sense of pride soon turned into ashes and dissipated. In the eyes of ordinary people, although Ling Pengyun is an omnipotent immortal, in the world of cultivating immortals, Ling Pengyun is just a small 4th-level key training cultivator. Even in the Ling family, he is the weakest level. What's more, compared with the entire world of cultivating immortals, he is not even an ant. With his mentality corrected, the proud look on his face returned to normal. Ling Pengyun's expression changed as he rushed over, and Ling Ruguo, who was leading the team on a black horse, saw it. He had also experienced the envy and gaze of ordinary people, and he knew that it was normal for Ling Pengyun to be arrogant. When he saw Ling Pengyun's expression return to normal, he nodded with satisfaction and said to himself, "This child is worthy of being valued by the 11th brother. His personality has changed quickly. Not bad." Stop. Ling Ruguo turned his head, mobilized his spiritual power in his throat, and cast a small spell sound amplification. With a blessing of the sound amplification spell, the word "stop" resounded in the surrounding half a mile, and the entire team of more than 3,000 people heard it. Who dared not to obey the immortal's order, and they all ordered the horses pulling the wooden cart to stop. During this time, Ling Pengyun also came to Ling Ruguo, who was riding a black horse. "Great-grandfather, why did you come here in person to escort this group of mortal clansmen? Did you encounter monsters on the way?" Ling Pengyun bowed his hands and asked respectfully. Ling Ruguo said kindly, "The family has been short of manpower recently, and my old bones just happened to have a place to use their skills, so I took the initiative to escort the clansmen who were dispatched here. On the way, we encountered a tiger monster in the middle stage of key training, but there was no danger." Pengyun, Have you found a place for these more than 3,000 mortal clansmen to live? I have found it. It is by the Qingshi Lake next to the Qingshi Mountain where I am stationed. Although the lake is only 1,000 feet wide, the water flows continuously. There are also many fish in the lake. There is also mostly flat land by the lake. Not only is there enough land to build houses, but also enough fields can be opened up. When watering these farmlands, the lake water is next to it, which is also convenient for watering. Ling Pengyun pointed in the direction of Qingshi Lake and told the area that had been explored long ago. This is a good job. Please lead the way for us. Ling Ruguo heard this and was more satisfied with his unfamiliar junior. He praised him and said. Ling Pengyun was very happy with the praise, but he didn't care. He didn't spend much effort to find the place where the ordinary people lived. He stepped lightly and came to the front of the caravan. He led the huge caravan to the Qingshi Lake at a slow speed. On the way, there was no road in the area, and the ground was bumpy. There were many stones and even vegetation, which seriously affected the speed of the caravan loaded with a lot of heavy objects. However, it took 2 incense sticks of time to reach the Qingshi Lake after a distance of several miles. This also made Ling Pengyun secretly plan in his heart that he must let the ordinary people of Qingshi village pave a clean road in the future, at least without potholes. When the caravan arrived at the Qingshi Lake, Ling Ruguo once again used the sound enhancement technique to speak loudly to the caravan for more than 3,000 years. Ling Dong, where are you? A middle-aged strong man hurriedly squeezed out of the crowd, came to Ling Ruguo's horse, and said respectfully, Grandpa, I'm here. Ling Pengyun, who was beside Ling Ruguo, heard this address. His expression slightly changed, glanced at the middle-aged man named Ling Dong, and then looked at Ling Ruguo. Seeing that the two people had a lot of similarities in their faces, he immediately knew the relationship between the two. This is the immortal who will protect your Qingshi village in the future. If you encounter any trouble, you can break this jade pendant, or go to the Qingshi Mountain next to you and call for help. Go down and reorganize the tribesmen. This long journey of nearly 15 days has also made you mortals suffer. However, no matter how hard and tired you are, you still have to build houses. Rest for 2 hours first. In the future, you will command the villagers to build houses by the lake, form a village, and open up farmland. During this period, I don't want to see quarrels. In the future, the position of the village chief of this Qingshi village will be held by you. Chapter 12 Ling Ruguo's Commission. Ling Ruguo jumped off the black horse, took out 2 jade pendants from his arms, and handed one of them to the middle-aged strong man Ling Dong. When Ling Dong heard that the immortal had entrusted these important tasks to him and that he was also appointed as the village chief, he was quite happy, and his eyes were burning with ambition. He immediately responded, Understood, ancestor, I will definitely do a good job of this. Well, do it well, don't make any mistakes, otherwise even if your father protects you, I will not forgive you. Back off. Ling Ruguo said majestically. Ling Dong knelt down and thanked him, and then left tremblingly, obviously frightened by Ling Ruguo's words just now. After Ling Dong walked away and there was no one else around, Ling Ruguo handed the remaining jade pendant in his hand to Ling Pengyun. Pengyun, this token and the jade pendant in Ling Dong's hand are a pair. If one of them is broken, the other will also be broken. As for the relationship between Ling Dong and me, I believe you have also seen it. This is one of my grandchildren and the only son of your 18th uncle. Unfortunately, he has no spiritual roots, so he was not born in the family. He was sent to a mortal village to be raised when he was young, so you have never seen him. However, Ling Dong has a good character and good ability. That's why I recommended him to the clan to become the village chief of Qingshi village. I don't have much life left. In the future, I hope you can help me take care of this disappointing grandson. When telling this last sentence, Ling Ruguo's tone was slightly pleading, without any intention that Ling Ruguo was an elder. Ling Pengyun had no objection to Ling Ruguo's descendants serving as the village chief of Qingshi village. Many descendants of the family members without spiritual roots have some positions in the mortal world, which is normal. Ling Ruguo's pleading made Ling Pengyun feel quite touched. In his previous life, in order to find a good job, his parents also visited relatives everywhere to find ways. Thinking back, Ling Pengyun also understood the meaning of the word take care. In the world of immortal cultivation, it is very common for monsters to attack ordinary villages. Ling Ruguo's care is obviously to hope that he will provide timely support when Qingshi village is in danger, so as not to let his grandson Ling Dong fall into danger. Don't worry, third great-grandfather, taking care of the residents of Qingshi village is my job. If this Qingshi Mountain encounters a crisis, my great-grandson will definitely provide timely support. Ling Pengyun said solemnly. I feel relieved with this. This Qingshi Mountain is the most borderland of my Anyang County. It is bound to be attacked by monsters from time to time. These are 3 first-level medium-grade water shield talismans drawn by your 18th uncle. Don't refuse. Ling Ruguo took out 3 talisman papers with flashing blue spiritual charm from the storage bag and stuffed them into Ling Pengyun's hands. This. Ling Pengyun looked at the 3 water shield talismans in his hand and understood what Ling Ruguo was thinking. He was afraid that he would not take good care of the affairs of Qingshi village. In order to prevent Ling Ruguo from thinking too much, Ling Pengyun did not hesitate and directly put the 3 water shield talismans in his storage bag. Seeing this, Ling Ruguo's eyes flashed with a bit of joy, and then quickly disappeared. Looking at the more than 3,000 ordinary people in the distance, his expression became solemn and he said, Pengyun, the mortals of Qingshi village were all transferred from Xiazi town, 300 miles away. They originally followed us from Yunshu County to immigrate to Huaishu County 3 years ago. It hasn't been long since they lived in peace, and now they have to move again. They may have some complaints in their hearts. On weekdays, you should comfort them more, send some spiritual rain to irrigate the crops planted in the farmlands of these mortals, or reward them with the flesh and blood of the innate beasts that they hunted. Otherwise, if the resentment of these mortals grows, and a person with spiritual roots appears in this village, it will not be good for the family. Ling Pengyun naturally saw that these 3,000 mortals were full of resentment. As the guardian of Qingshi village and a member of the Ling family, he naturally had the obligation to deal with this matter, so he responded immediately. Third ancestor, I understand. I have said everything I should say, and the convoy has been escorted. I will return to the clan first. I am old and will not live long. I want to stay in the clan mountain for a while. Ling Ruguo joked, then used the light body technique and ran away from here quickly and lightly. The reason why Ling Ruguo rode a black horse before was to allow the convoy to keep up. Otherwise, with his 7th level key training, even if his lifespan was not much left and his spiritual power was dissipated, he would still have no problem traveling 1,500 miles a day. Ling Pengyun looked at Ling Ruguo's back as he left, with a complicated expression. To die in the clan mountain is a blessing for the cultivators of our clan. It's just a pity that in the near future, my Ling family will have one less member. Ah! Ling Pengyun sighed and came back to his senses. He turned his head to look at the crowd around him, and saw that the ordinary people were all lying or sitting on the wooden carts to rest. He turned his head again and looked at a dense forest a few miles away, and had an idea. Let's help them. Ling Pengyun moved his footsteps lightly and ran towards the jungle. After the more than 3,000 ordinary people of the Ling family who moved here had rested for 2 hours, Ling Dong, the village chief of Qingshi village, led a group of villagers with sharp weapons to the nearest jungle a few miles away to cut down trees and build wooden houses. However, he saw that thousands of trees in the jungle were cut by sharp weapons and fell to the ground. Seeing this scene, Ling Dong, who had a close relationship with the monks, immediately guessed that this was a monk's method based on the fact that the cuts of each tree here were extremely smooth. He knew that his ancestor Ling Ruguo left and returned to the Ling family mountain. Now, the only one left in the surrounding area was the young immortal stationed in Qingshi Mountain, and only this immortal who had a blood relationship with them would help them cut down trees. He immediately recalled that when his grandfather left, he told him to cooperate with the immortal in Qingshi Mountain to appease the villagers. Everyone, this is the tree that the immortal in Qingshi Mountain cut down. Just move back and build a wooden house. Ling Dong announced loudly. When the ordinary people heard this, they felt less resentful about the family for making them move around in recent years, and they all said that the immortal in Qingshi Mountain was kind. Because of the 1,000 trees that Ling Pengyun helped cut down, it also reduced a lot of time for the more than 3,000 people in Qingshi village to cut down trees. However, in just 3 days, these villagers built nearly 1,000 wooden houses by the Qingshi lake. Ling Pengyun, who was stationed in Qingshi Mountain, often went down the mountain to help the villagers of Qingshi village to open up farmland and irrigate rice. Whether it was opening up farmland or irrigating rice, it was very easy for Ling Pengyun, a cultivator in the middle stage of key training. The farmland is made of ordinary soil. You only need to use this soil loosening technique to turn the hard land into soft soil. With a slight turn, it can be turned into farmland. To irrigate the rice in the farmland, you need to use the water control technique to directly pull the water in the Qingshi Lake up to the sky, turn it into rain, and use it to irrigate the farmland. Even Ling Pengyun often sends down spiritual rain to nourish the ordinary rice in the farmland and accelerate their growth. Ling Pengyun's behavior has also been recognized and appreciated by the villagers of Qingshi village. According to what Ling Pengyun learned from the village chief Ling Dong, the more than 3,000 mortals in the village no longer have the resentment they had when they came. They all have the idea of opening up thousands of acres of fertile land in this barren land and making money. This situation also made Ling Pengyun feel that he did those jobs for the villagers of Qingshi village in vain. After that, Ling Pengyun would often go down the mountain and use magic to help the villagers of Qingshi village irrigate the farmland, but he was not as diligent as before, and generally went there once every 2 or 3 days. Chapter 13 Sparrow Guard. At the top of a Qingshi Mountain, Ling Pengyun stood beside the 6 mu of spiritual field, lowered his head, looked at the huge village with smoke rising from the Qingshi Lake, and sighed. Time flies, I have been here for a month. Those villagers have been here for 15 days. Time flies, we must seize every moment. Just as Ling Pengyun was lost in thought, 2 thumb-sized insects flew into the 3 mu of rice seedlings on the top of Qingshi Mountain from a distance, and began to eat the leaves of the yellow jade spiritual rice in the spiritual field. Ling Pengyun, who was lost in thought, noticed movement in the rice seedlings, turned around, and saw 2 more insects eating the leaves of the spiritual rice. He felt extremely helpless and his face showed disgust. Why are these damn insects here again? Ling Pengyun, angry, waved his hand and shot out 2 golden needles, directly killing the 2 insects that had just entered the first level of the innate realm. Since the topaz spiritual rice, key training grass, and sword star grass in the 6-acre spiritual field on the top of the mountain sprouted, they have been showing the signs of spiritual grass, and they have been emitting a lot of spiritual energy to the outside world. This situation attracts a lot of insects every day, even insects and beasts in the innate realm. The beasts are not bad. They will be killed by the Lingxiao guards organized by the warriors of Qingshi village before they get close to Qingshi Mountain. The insects can fly, which really caused a lot of trouble for Ling Pengyun. His cultivation is not high to begin with. Although he is stronger than the cultivators of the same level in the way of spiritual consciousness, it is comparable to the spiritual consciousness of the 6th level key training cultivator. If you don't deliberately release your spiritual consciousness to arrange it around, it is difficult to detect that there are insects eating spiritual grass and rice seedlings in the first time during the practice. But if you deliberately release your spiritual consciousness around to be alert, it will consume too much spiritual consciousness and it will be difficult to persist for too long. When he was in Lingxiao Mountain in his early years, he had enough spiritual energy to open the mountain protection formation of Lingxiao Mountain to support the light curtain, which also prevented flying insects and birds from harming the spiritual plants in the mountain. Ling Ruda, Ling Pengyun's spiritual planting master, did not tell Ling Pengyun that he needed to guard against flying insects when planting spiritual plants. This also caused a lot of damage to the 6 acres of spiritual plants when they first showed the characteristics of spiritual plants and carried spiritual energy 5 days ago. If it weren't for the fact that there were too many flying insects seeding in the spiritual field on the top of the mountain, Ling Pengyun, who was obsessed with cultivation, would not have been able to find them. Although he killed those flying insects at that time, Ling Pengyun also learned a lesson after that. He left the stone cave halfway up the mountain where he lived and sat cross-legged on the top of the bluestone mountain day and night, always alert to insects attacking and harming rice seedlings and spiritual grass seedlings. As for the threat to Ling Pengyun, there is none, unless these insects can enter the realm of key training. On the other hand, these insects in the acquired and innate realm sensed that the spiritual plants planted in the 6-acre spiritual field on the top of Qingshi Mountain contained a lot of spiritual energy. After eating them, they could advance their cultivation. That's why they kept coming here to eat the spiritual plants, risking their lives. If the spiritual veins of Qingshi Mountain had enough spiritual energy, it would be good to open this mountain protection formation. In this way, the formation could transform into a light curtain to isolate those flying insects and birds from outside. I wouldn't have to spend so much time, energy, and effort to stay here day and night. Even when practicing, I still need to stop temporarily and wake up to kill insects. Ling Pengyun said helplessly. He waved his hand and put away the 2 innate insects in the wheat field that were killed by the golden needle. These insects were collected for the hundreds of acquired and innate Lingxiao guards in Qingshi village. If warriors eat more of these innate insects with more blood and energy, they can also speed up their practice and break through to a higher realm. During these days, Ling Pengyun killed nearly 100 innate flying insects, and they all entered the mouths of those Lingxiao guards. The Lingxiao guards became stronger, which could save Ling Pengyun a lot of effort. After all, Ling Pengyun still relied on these warriors to kill the beasts attracted by the spiritual plants planted on the top of the Qingshi Mountain. At the same time, he could also show favor to those Lingxiao guards and make them more loyal to the family. At this time, a yellow sparrow flew in the sky, and its target was exactly the top of the Qingshi Mountain. Ling Pengyun looked disgusted, and had guessed that this sparrow in the innate realm was probably attracted by the spiritual plants on the top of the mountain. He was about to shoot a golden needle to kill it, but he saw that the sparrow had a quick meal on the way and ate a flying insect that was also attracted by the spiritual plants. This scene really inspired Ling Pengyun. Hey, birds eat insects, one thing conquers another. If I tame this bird, wouldn't it be possible to get rid of the hard work of guarding here day and night? Ling Pengyun said happily. Afterwards, he hurriedly interrupted the use of the golden needle technique and let the sparrow in the distance approach Qingshi Mountain. The sparrow also had some brains. Seeing that there was someone on the top of the mountain, it circled around Qingshi Mountain for several circles. Seeing that Ling Pengyun, who was next to the 6-acre spiritual plant, had not moved, like a stone man, it carefully landed in the 6-acre spiritual plant on the top of the mountain and opened its mouth to peck at the rice seedlings. At this time, Ling Pengyun made a move. However, it was not a killing move, but a use of the control technique to capture it. Afterwards, he pinched his hands and cast a master recognition restriction in the sparrow's brain, forcing it to recognize the master. Even if it resisted, it could not resist Ling Pengyun's consciousness that suppressed the innate beasts. In just half a breath, the master recognition restriction was successful. As for why Ling Pengyun did not use blood as a guide to cast the master recognition restriction, it was also very simple. It was just a sparrow in the innate realm. Using blood as a guide was really a waste of blood. Different from the earthworms, this is the first-level demon beast bloodline, which not only has the miraculous effect of improving the quality of spiritual soil, but also has the opportunity to advance to the key training realm. The reason why they cannot be used as guards of the spiritual field is that their attack is extremely weak, and their only effect is to change the quality of spiritual soil. Of course, such a simple master recognition restriction is also somewhat harmful. Although this sparrow is only in the innate realm, it is difficult to break free from Ling Pengyun's restriction, but once it breaks through to the key training realm, even if it is only the first level of key training, it can easily break free from Ling Pengyun's master recognition restriction. However, whether this sparrow at the third level of innate can have that blessing and break through to the key training realm is another matter. Seeing that the restriction has been successful, Ling Pengyun cast a small spell shock and deterrence, which can shock those with low cultivation and make them feel fear. The yellow-haired sparrow captured by the object control technique is in this situation. As soon as the shock and deterrence technique came out, it immediately gave up resistance, and its eyes were full of fear. In the future, on this mountaintop, catch the flying insects that want to eat those spiritual plants for me, otherwise, you will die. Ling Pengyun said viciously. With the help of the master recognition restriction, the yellow-haired sparrow heard it clearly, and the fear in his heart became more intense. He regretted why he was greedy for those spiritual plants on the top of the mountain. Faced with life-threatening danger, the yellow-haired sparrow nodded quickly to express his response. Afterwards, the sparrow flapped its wings obediently and hovered in the air. Once an insect approached, it would pick it and eat it, just like a good guardian of a spiritual field. Thanks to GUI Yabe for the 200 starting coins reward. Chapter 14 Improving Spiritual Rice. Ling Pengyun was very happy when he saw this. Ling Pengyun, who was liberated, was in a good mood. He went down the mountain directly to the farmland developed by Qingshi village. He then selected 100 acres of farmland and irrigated each acre of farmland with 3 breaths of spiritual rain. This kind of grace made the Qingshi villagers who saw this scene grateful. The rice irrigated by the spiritual rain can not only speed up the growth of rice, but also reduce injuries and even prolong life for mortals who eat this kind of rice irrigated by the spiritual rain for a long time. This kind of rice is also called pseudo-immortal rice. It is sold at a very high price in the market. Many wealthy masters will buy it at 5 or even 10 times the price of ordinary rice. After benefiting Qingshi village, Ling Pengyun took a look at the situation on the top of the mountain and saw that the yellow-haired sparrow was indeed doing its job conscientiously. Its stomach had become much bigger. It was obvious that it had eaten a lot of insects during this period. This yellow-haired sparrow is not bad. If it keeps doing this in the future, it can be pushed forward. Let it enter the innate perfection more smoothly. It is actually very simple to push the sparrow of the third level of innate to innate perfection. It only takes a few pills. Cultivators also have the innate realm, but it is just a transition, so it does not appear in the realm of cultivation. Ordinary cultivators can break through from the innate to the key training in a few years. And the distinction between acquired and innate is also the name used by ordinary warriors to distinguish the realm. Ling Pengyun returned to the cave halfway up the mountain and sat cross-legged on the futon. As usual, the experiment of improving spiritual rice was carried out every 3 days. 2 spiritual rice seeds were taken out from the storage bag. One of them looked like ordinary rice, but it exuded a weak spiritual energy. The other spiritual rice was in the shape of gold and jade, extremely transparent, and contained more than 10 times the spiritual energy of the former. The former was the seed of the first-level water spiritual rice, and the latter was the seed of the second-level golden marrow rice. Both are the most common spiritual rice seeds in the world of immortal cultivation. They have not been improved and belong to pure spiritual rice. Many low-level spiritual plant husbands have improved various special spiritual rices by combining pure spiritual rice. Ling's Jade series spiritual rice is improved by these 2 kinds of spiritual rice seeds. As for why they did not improve on the 3 improved spiritual rices of Ling's existing family, it is because the 3 kinds of spiritual rice in the Jade series have been modified, and the Yimu origin contained in them is extremely unstable. It is difficult to improve them again, unless it is a high-level spiritual plant husband. Now these 2 kinds of seeds of water spiritual rice and golden marrow rice are the leftovers of Ling Pengyun when he was in Lingxiao Mountain earlier and wanted to improve spiritual rice with a great elder Lingruta. Now Ling Pengyun still has a lot of them in his storage bag. As soon as the 2 spiritual rice seeds were taken out, they were thrown into the air by Ling Pengyun. Ling Pengyun did not delay. After throwing the seeds, he formed a seal and cast 2 pure wood spiritual power condensed seals on the 2 spiritual rice thorns. Pass half a wisp of Yimu origin into the body of that water spirit rice seed. Ling Pengyun said secretly. Then, a vine with barbs sprang out from Ling Pengyun's sleeves, lightly touched the floating water spirit rice seed, and passed half a wisp of Yimu origin transformed by pure wood spirit power into its body. This vine with the barbs is Ling Pengyun's life spirit plant, named Thorn Vine, which is an extremely gentle vine. It was carefully selected for him by his master Lingruta, who taught him to learn spirit plants. This thorny vine not only helped Ling Pengyun to advance to the first level of spirit plants, but also served as Ling Pengyun's helper even in battle, turning into a set of wood vine armor. On weekdays, Ling Pengyun's life spirit plant, the thorny vine, was attached to his chest, relying on absorbing the spirit power in Ling Pengyun's body, which was of the same origin as it, to maintain vitality and improve his cultivation. Now its grade is the same as Ling Pengyun's spiritual plant, both are first-grade low-grade. After passing a strand of Yimu essence through it, the thorny vine shrank a lot, just like bean sprouts, and it wilted directly. Ling Pengyun saw this scene with a helpless look on his face, but if he wanted to improve the spiritual rice, he could only rely on the Yimu essence of his lifelong spiritual plant, the thorny vine. He and the pure wood spiritual power and Yimu essence that the thorny vine passed into the 2 spiritual rice seeds played a role of reconciling and neutralizing the conflict between the Yimu essence of the water spiritual rice and the golden marrow rice when they merged. Yimu essence is the essence of pure yin wood, also known as flower and grass wood. The Yimu essence of each flower and grass wood is actually different, even if it is the same kind of flower and grass wood. Just like people, there are always different appearances, even twins. There will be some differences. Improving spiritual plants actually means to let the essences of different spiritual plants merge with each other, so that the superior ones can make up for the deficiencies of the weaker ones and then improve the spiritual plants. In the process of merging the essences, someone needs to be there to coordinate. If no one coordinates, it will definitely fail. The extremely gentle essence in the body of the spiritual plant that the spiritual plant husband refined is the best blending agent. Ling Pengyun did not dare to delay too much. He took back the thorny vine, changed the finger technique in his hand, and used the wood spiritual power that he had just injected into the body of the golden marrow rice seed to pull out the few Yimu essences in it and send them into the body of the water spirit rice seed. When the Yimu essence was sent into the body of the water spirit rice seed, there was nothing unusual. However, when Ling Pengyun forcibly merged the wisp of the golden marrow rice essence with a unique wisp of Yimu essence in the water spirit rice, something strange happened. In just a moment of contact, the essence in the water spirit rice seed conflicted with a foreign golden marrow rice essence that sneaked in privately. The spiritual energy in the water spirit rice seed began to become disordered, and even tiny cracks appeared on its surface, as if the next moment, the water spirit rice seed would fall apart and turn into fragments. Ling Pengyun secretly said not good, and immediately closed his eyes, controlling his own spiritual plant of the same origin, and injected a wisp of Yimu essence into it, acting as a reconciler between the two spiritual rice seed essences that were in conflict. At the same time, he used the pure wood spiritual power he had injected into the water spirit rice seed to heal the water spirit rice seed and repair the cracks on its surface. Unfortunately, Ling Pengyun's actions were ultimately in vain. He only persisted for 3 breaths of time, and the floating water spirit rice seed exploded and turned into fragments due to the conflict between the two spiritual rice in its body. It still failed. Since the first time I started experimenting with the improved spiritual rice, I have already done it nearly 10 times. 10 strands of Yimu essence in the thorny vines have also been consumed. If I continue to experiment with the improved spiritual rice, I am afraid that the thorny vines will be hurt. I have to temporarily postpone its advancement. I can only pause for a while. Ling Pengyun said helplessly. In fact, he had already guessed that the improved spiritual rice would fail this time. There were 9 failures before. When he was in Lingxiao Mountain, he failed 100 times. This improved spiritual rice is too difficult. But that's right. If it wasn't difficult, this improved spiritual rice would have become a common commodity and could be bought in any market. How can we control every seed of the improved Jade series spiritual rice like the family does and not reveal it to the outside world? Ling Pengyun could only comfort himself in this way to boost his confidence. But Ling Pengyun's words were not wrong. The improved spiritual rice was indeed difficult. In the entire Huaishu County, among the 5 foundation building families and nearly a dozen key training families, only the Ling family has improved spiritual rice. The rest of the families planted ordinary spiritual rice such as water spiritual rice. Just thinking this way, I heard rumors in the clan that the clan leader had upgraded the spiritual plant to the 2nd level several years ago. With the ability of a 2nd level spiritual plant husband, the clan leader should be able to improve the spiritual plant like his ancestors. At least one of them should be no problem. If the clan leader can really improve a spiritual plant, the clan will become stronger and stronger in planting spiritual plants. When my spiritual plant reaches the 1st level upper grade, I can also ask the clan for more methods to improve spiritual plants. Maybe I will be inspired by then, and I can also improve a spiritual plant to benefit the family. Ling Pengyun said with anticipation. At this moment, the frustration in Ling Pengyun's heart suddenly dissipated, and he regained his confidence. He waved his hand and summoned a ball of fire, burning the remains of the water spiritual rice seeds and the golden marrow rice seeds into ashes and cleaning them up. Then, he took out a medicine bottle from his storage bag, poured out a Huangaya pill, swallowed it, and practiced a Bishu Sutra to refine the medicinal power of the Huangaya pill. The 6 key training pills from the half-year salary he received in advance had already been consumed. Even the 12 Huangaya pills from the half-year salary had been consumed. The medicinal power of 1 Huangaya pill was only enough for Ling Pengyun to practice for 10 days. Horizontal ellipsis. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Yunmeng Market. 4 months later. In a cave halfway up Qingshi Mountain, Ling Pengyun sat cross-legged on a cushion, looking helpless, muttering to himself. In these 4 months, I have consumed 6 key training pills and 12 Huangaya pills, but I still cannot break through to my current realm. Now I am only 1 step away from the 5th level of key training. If I can get a few more Huangaya pills to help me, I will definitely break through my current level and enter the 5th level of key training. He took out all his spirit stones and counted them. Seeing that there were as many as 93 pieces, he had an idea. Among these 93 spirit stones, 20 pieces were used to open the mountain protection formation of Qingshi Mountain, and the remaining 73 spirit stones belonged to Ling Pengyun himself. Early the next morning, Ling Pengyun went down Qingshi Mountain and told the village chief of Qingshi village, Ling Dong, that he would be away for a while, and asked Ling Dong to lead the 100 Lingxiao guards of Qingshi village to patrol more in the near future. Afterwards, he took out a map of the distribution of forces in Huaishu County that Ling Ruda gave him when he left the clan. He looked at it carefully, took out a linen Taoist robe from the storage bag, changed the Ling family robe on his body, dressed up as a casual cultivator, and used the light body technique to identify the direction and ran away. Anyang County, where the Ling family is located, is adjacent to Pengyun County, which is also Huaishu County. The overlord of Pengyun County is Yunwu Wen clan. Like Lingxiao Ling clan, they are both foundation-building clans. The overall strength of the Wen clan and the Ling clan is similar, and their experiences are similar to those of the Ling clan. They were originally small key training families. Because the patriarch broke through the foundation and followed the Bailing sect to fight for territory, he made meritorious deeds. In this newly developed Huaishu County, the Bailing sect gave him a second-level spiritual vein, which made him a foundation-building clan and occupied a county. And the Wen clan opened a small trading market in its own territory for surrounding casual cultivators or family cultivators to trade spiritual objects. This trip, Ling Pengyun's destination is this Yunwu gathering. Although the Yunwu market is more than 1,000 miles away from Qingshi Mountain, where Ling Pengyun is located, it is half the distance from Lingxiao Market and the clan mountain opened by the Ling family. Basically, the foundation-building families in the world of immortal cultivation will establish small markets in their territory to increase the way of selling spiritual objects and increase family income. As for the majority of people who come to this fair to buy spiritual objects, they are the loose cultivators who are the most common in the world of immortal cultivation. Because Huaishu County is close to the territory of the 10,000 Great Wilderness Demon Python Lake, where monsters are rampant, although Huaishu County has only been established for only 4 years, many loose cultivators have entered the county city. This also makes the markets established by the 5 major families in the territory, including Huaishu Market, do well. The Ling family also established a small market called Lingxiao Market near Lingxiao Mountain. The clan members who are sent by the family to guard the low-level spiritual mountains cannot leave the place of garrison for a long time. First, it is to prevent monsters from harming the mortal villages built next to the low-level spiritual mountains. Secondly, it is to prevent the guards of low-level spiritual mountains from being attacked by casual cultivators and monsters, which would lead to the spiritual plants planted in the spiritual mountains being taken away. It was for these 2 reasons that Ling Pengyun turned to the nearby Yunwu Market in Pengyun County. At night, Ling Pengyun traveled more than 1,000 miles and came to a valley covered by clouds according to the place marked on the map in his hand. The clouds outside this valley should be the same as the clouds outside Ling's market. They are all transformed by the magic array that protects the market. On weekdays, they only serve as a thing to cover the sight of mortals. But when the market is facing an attack, this market protection magic array is fully activated, and this cloud will inevitably increase by more than 10 times. I am afraid that even a cultivator in the late stage of key training will be trapped in this cloud and difficult to escape. Ling Pengyun looked at the large cloud in front of him, and a trace of fear appeared in his eyes. After hesitating for a while, Ling Pengyun stepped into the cloud. After all, the long-term market depends on reputation. If the reputation is lost, it is completely unnecessary to rely on the magic circle to trap and kill Ling Pengyun, a 4th-level cultivator. After entering the clouds and mist, Ling Pengyun silently chanted a spell and performed the key viewing technique. With the blessing of the key viewing technique, this was just a cloud that covered the vision. As if nothing, Ling Pengyun also quickly came to the entrance of the valley in the clouds and mist. On a huge rock above the entrance of the valley, there were 4 big characters engraved, Cloud and Mist Market. At the entrance of the valley, a middle-aged man in a blue Taoist robe with clouds embroidered on his cuffs sat cross-legged. Seeing Ling Pengyun coming, this man stood up and said in a light tone, "My fellow Taoist, I am the guard of Yunwu Market. Do you have the entry and exit token of Yunwu Market?" Ling Pengyun looked at the blue-robed middle-aged man who was blocking his way. He saw the pattern on his blue Taoist robe, which was the symbol of Yunwuan clan. He guessed that this person was the guardian of Yunwu market. Ling Pengyun knew his cultivation level without much guessing. This person was at least in the late stage of key training. Ling clan's Lingxiao market was guarded by an old ancestor of the Ru generation in the late stage of key training. Knowing that the market required the use of spirit stones to buy entry and exit passes, Ling Pengyun did not say much and directly threw a spirit stone to the middle-aged man. No. The blue-robed middle-aged man took the spirit stone, took out a token with the word "when" engraved on the front and the word "entry" engraved on the back, and handed it to Ling Pengyun. Then he said with a smile, "I hope you don't lose this token. The market of our Yunwuan clan only recognizes tokens, not people. I have been stationed in Yunwu market for more than 10 years. Seeing that you are unfamiliar, I think this is your first time to come to our Wen clan's market. Let me say that the head of our Wen clan is a second-level lower-grade weapon refiner. Our Wen clan is also a weapon refiner family. If you want to buy magic tools, you can go to the Yunwu 100 Weapons Hall in the deepest part of the market to buy them. The quality of the magic tools in the store is guaranteed. There are even many first-level top-grade magic tools." Ling Pengyun was a little moved when he heard this. The Yunwu clan is indeed a weapon refiner family, and the quality of the magic tools sold by their clan is indeed good. The black iron sword in his hand was made by the Yunwu clan. "Well, if there is a need, I will definitely go," Ling Pengyun said. The middle-aged man in blue moved away and made way for the entrance to the cave. Ling Pengyun nodded slightly, stepped on the bluestone street, and entered the market. The bluestone market was not big, just a small valley covering only a few hundred feet. On both sides of the main street, there were more than a dozen monks who looked like casual cultivators setting up stalls. When they saw Ling Pengyun entering the market, they shouted about the things on their stalls. "The best water spirit rice, 1 spirit stone is 10.5 pounds, would you like to buy some? The spirit rice I sell is half a pound more than the market price. The low-grade magic weapon golden spirit sword, only 30 spirit stones, come and have a look." 5 years ago, when the Ling family was still a key training family and the family was stationed in Yunshu County, Ling Pengyun had been to the Yunshu market where his parents worked. At that time, he followed his parents to the unique stall area in the market. At first, he was very interested in the business methods of the stall area, but when his parents told him that there were not many good things in the stall area, and he confirmed it himself, it was indeed as his parents said. This incident also made Ling Pengyun ignore the words of the stall owners in Yunwu market and walked directly to the 5 shops deep in the market. Chapter 16, The Lonely Old Man Ling Enters the Water. The 5 shops deep inside are the only 5 shops in the market. They are the Yunwu Bakadang, which occupies the middle position and occupies the largest area. The 2 shops on the right are Luoxia Formation Shop and Qingshi Pavilion. The 2 shops on the left are Lingxiao Rice Hall and Huxiao Beishao Pavilion. These 5 shops are opened by the 5 major foundation building families in Huaishu County. The other markets opened by the foundation building families of Huaishu County are also the same. They all have shops opened by the other families. Huaishu County is a newly opened human territory. The 5 foundation building families are from different places in the 4 states under the Bailing Gate. They have weak foundations and weaker strength than the foundation building families in other county cities. They are also close to the boundary of Jiamang Lake. There is only a Huaishu market established by the Bailing Gate in the middle. Therefore, the 5 major families in Huaishu County are now united and have a very good relationship with each other. They are far less than other county cities, where there is hatred between each other. This is how it is now possible to have shops opened by other families and the market opened by their own families. Of course, this move is also to expand the interests of each family in different counties. It can be regarded as a win-win cooperation. Ling Pengyun walked into Lingxiao Rice Hall and respectfully called out to the white-haired old man who was wearing Ling's Taoist robes and looking at the account book at the counter of the Rice Hall. 15th great-grandfather. The white-haired old man heard the call and hurriedly looked up at the door of the store. Seeing the familiar face, his expression suddenly brightened. There is indeed a kind of excitement of meeting relatives thousands of miles away from home. He smiled and asked kindly, "Xiao Pengyun, aren't you not yet 18? How can you come out of the mountains here?" The white-haired old man is named Ling Rushu. He ranks 15th in the Ling family's generation. He is 96 years old. He has made great contributions to the Ling family throughout his life and has made great contributions. Ling Rushu was also miserable. He was an old widower. He had a wife and was about to have a child. However, his wife, a cultivator, met an evil cultivator when she was pregnant and returned to her parents' home to visit her relatives. She died before her body was cold. Ling Rushu has never gotten over this incident in the past few decades, and has never remarried or had children. Ling Pengyun first explained the family's shortage of manpower and the fact that he and 4 other Peng generation clan members were sent to guard the spiritual veins, and then laughed. I came here mainly because I missed you, my 15th great-grandfather, and came to visit you. Another thing is to come to this store to buy Huangaya Dan. Ling Pengyun, including his parents, had a close relationship with Ling Rushu. When Ling Rushu was young, he used to manage the Lingxiao miscellaneous store in Yunshu County, Yunshu Market, where Ling's family originally worked. Ling Pengyun's parents worked for this old man in his early years. Later, because Ling Rushu was older, the family moved, and Ling Rushu handed over the store to Ling Pengyun's parents who had always worked diligently. Ling Rushu also followed his family to Huaishu County. Later, because Ling Rushu was old, he couldn't sit still, so he asked his family to manage the Lingxiao Rice Hall in the Yunwu market opened by the Wen family. You stinky boy, if you come to buy Huangaya Dan, just say you want to buy Huangaya Dan. Ling Ruda scolded, but the smile on his face betrayed his great joy at Ling Pengyun's words. Although Lingxiao Rice Hall mainly sells the 3 kinds of spiritual rice of Ling's Jade series, it also sells some other items, including magic tools, spiritual talismans, and elixirs, but the grades are not high. The same is true for the other 4 stores in this market. Xiao Pengyun, these are the remaining 7 bottles of Huangaya pills that the family sent to the rice hall half a year ago. Each bottle contains 2 pills, and the quality is medium. Each bottle costs 5 spirit stones. According to the privilege of being a member of the Ling family, you can buy things at a discount of 20% of the market price. How many Huangaya pills do you need? Ling Rushu took out a storage bag from his arms and summoned 5 bottles of Huangaya pills. Ling Pengyun had already thought about the number of Huangaya pills he wanted to buy, and then he spoke. 10. Ling Rushu was slightly surprised by the number of Huangaya pills that Ling Pengyun wanted, but he was relieved when he thought that Ling Pengyun's parents would give Ling Pengyun a lot of spirit stones every month to buy cultivation resources. However, as an elder, Ling Rushu still warned Ling Pengyun about the dangers of taking too many pills. Xiao Pengyun, although the pills are good, if you take too much, a lot of impurities will inevitably accumulate in the meridians, which may affect your future path. Half a year ago, the store also sent 5 first-grade middle-grade Qingshi Lingtao with this batch of Huangaya Dan. The effect of this peach is the same as Huangaya Dan, and it does not contain any impurities, and it is harmless to cultivators. It's just that the price is higher, 6 spirit stones each. But you also know its benefits, how to choose is up to you. Ling Pengyun hesitated about buying the peaches. After all, it would cost an extra spirit stone. Buying 5 Qingshi Lingtao would cost 5 more spirit stones, which could buy an extra Huangaya Dan. With a lot of thoughts in his mind, Ling Pengyun looked at Ling Rushu's angry eyes, his body trembled, and he said helplessly, "Great-grandfather, is it not enough for me to buy these 5 spiritual peaches? That's not bad, then you can buy 5 Huangaya pills and 5 middle-grade Qingshi spiritual peaches. After the discount, Huangaya pills are 20 spiritual stones, and the spiritual peaches are 25 spiritual stones, a total of 45 spiritual stones." Ling Rushu's face eased a little, and he calculated. Ling Pengyun honestly called out 45 spiritual stones from the storage bag and handed them to Ling Rushu. One hand handed over the money, and the other hand handed over the goods. After Ling Rushu handed over the 5 spiritual peaches and Huangaya pills to Ling Pengyun, he asked, "It's dark outside, and it's also the best time for evil cultivators to kill cultivators. If you return to the Qingshi Mountain where you are stationed overnight, you may encounter danger. Stay for 1 night, so you can chat with me." Ling Pengyun immediately agreed after hearing this. However, it was not for safety, but because he was afraid that after Ling Rushu's lifespan was exhausted, he would feel ashamed for not spending more time with this close old man. In his previous life, when his grandparents ran out of lifespan, Ling Pengyun regretted for a long time that he did not accompany them well when they were still alive. And his relationship with Ling Rushu was as close as that of a real great-grandfather and great-grandson. Although Ling Rushu and Ling Pengyun had simple meals that night, they had a great time talking. They chatted until midnight, then said goodbye to each other and went to the room on the second floor of Lingxiao Rice Hall to rest. The next morning, Ling Pengyun absorbed the power of the early sun for a while and went to Yunmangbeki Hall, Huxiao Beishao Pavilion, and Kingzhufu Pavilion to wander around. As the host of the Yunmeng market, the Yunmangbeki Pavilion did release a lot of exquisite first-level middle magic tools, and even a few flying magic tools. Ling Pengyun, a descendant of a foundation-building family, was jealous when he saw them, but unfortunately he could not afford them. He only had 28 spirit stones left in his pocket, and he could not even afford the cheapest first-level inferior paper crane flying magic tool. Unless he bought a second-hand flying magic tool, but second-hand magic tools were not good. Ling Pengyun went to the Tiger Roaring Beast Hall to see if there were any spirit beasts with good potential. Unfortunately, although there were many spirit beasts in the Tiger Roaring Beast Hall, they were all weak in qualifications and could only be promoted to the middle stage of key training at most. The only thing he gained was the Green Bamboo Talisman Pavilion. In order to improve his own combat power, Ling Pengyun spent 20 spirit stones to buy 4 first-level medium-quality rocket talismans. Afterwards, he had breakfast with Ling Rushu, and then said goodbye to Ling Rushu and left the Yunwu market. The middle-aged man of the Yunwu Wen family stationed at the entrance of the market looked at Ling Pengyun's back as he left, his expression flashing with a strange light, and muttered to himself, "So it's a member of the Lingxiao Ling family. I was wondering if someone at this age who can break through to the 4th level of key training could be a casual cultivator. This person is so young, he should be a member of the Peng generation of the Lingxiao Ling family. This person's cultivation is only at the 4th level of key training. He should not be the young genius Ling Penxing of the Peng generation of the Ling family." According to rumors, Ling Penxing's cultivation should be close to the late stage of key training. Based on this speculation, this person should be Ling Pengyun of the Ling family, who has a pseudo-spiritual root, but has a strong sense of spiritual energy, so his cultivation progress speed is comparable to that of an ordinary 3 spiritual root cultivator. The Ling family really has talents. 2 young and promising members of the family may continue the Ling family lineage in the future. It's a pity that my Wen family, Alice, the middle-aged man of the Wen family, thought of the Wen family, which was also a large foundation-building family, but had a lack of successors and had not produced any talents yet. He couldn't help but sigh lightly, and his expression gradually became depressed. He also withdrew his gaze and no longer watched too much. Chapter 17 Attack. On the other side, Ling Pengyun was extremely cautious on his way back after leaving Yunwu Market. Although he had only spent a lot of money to buy spiritual objects in his own shop the day before, no one knew about it. But he lived in Lingxiao Rice Hall last night. As long as the cultivators who observed carefully, they basically saw this matter, and guessed that Ling Pengyun had a close relationship with the Ling family. In this world, as long as you have a relationship with the family or the sect cultivators, you can basically be said to be a fat sheep. As long as you can kill them, you will definitely become rich. Therefore, Ling Pengyun was also worried all the way back, worried that some cultivators would be blinded by money and property and kill him. With this uneasy mood, Ling Pengyun rushed for several hours, and then he left Pinggan County of Yunwuan Clan and entered Anyang County. Returning to the family territory also made Ling Pengyun feel much more at ease. But before he could be glad that there was no cultivator to kill him, when he passed through a dense forest on a must-pass road, a green figure suddenly flew out of the bushes beside Ling Pengyun and attacked him. Ling Pengyun's eyes blurred, and he subconsciously threw the water shield talisman that he had been holding tightly in his palm to prevent the monks from intercepting him in front of him, creating a water shield that blocked the attacking green figure. With a crisp bang sound, the water shield was rippled, blocking a small green snake that was as long as an arm and as thick as an index finger. However, the water shield was bitten by the 2 fangs of the green snake, and 2 drops of venom oozed out of its fangs and burned on the water shield. The venom burned on the water shield like fire, making a sizzling sound. The flashing spiritual light of the water shield quickly dimmed under the erosion of the 2 drops of venom. Ling Pengyun looked at the attacking snake and broke into cold sweat. Damn it, how did I run into this ghost thing? This green snake is quite famous in the world of immortal cultivation, and is called Moin poisonous snake. The potential of the Moin venomous snake is not strong. Generally, it can only be promoted to the middle stage of key training. If it is based on cultivation alone, it is indeed not up to the standard, but it contains a strong poison. Even if a cultivator in the late stage of key training is bitten by a more venomous snake in the early stage of key training, he will die without a doubt if he does not take a first-grade superior detoxification pill within 10 breaths. In addition to the poison, this more venomous snake has two other strengths, namely speed and breath control. It specializes in hiding in the dark and making sneak attacks. This is also the usual routine of most venomous snakes, but this more venomous snake is more outstanding. And the little snake in front of him is a more venomous snake in the middle stage of key training. With its cultivation, if it bites Ling Pengyun, I am afraid that within 5 breaths, Ling Pengyun will die of poison. In the deep crisis, Ling Pengyun did not dare to be careless. He kept his mind and quickly came to his senses. He slapped the storage bag on his waist, summoned the black iron sword from it, and hit the more venomous snake that was blocked by the water shield. It must be said that the black cloud venomous snake was really fast. Seeing that it was blocked by the water shield and another flying sword was coming, it used the water shield to push its body and then rushed into the dense weeds around it again. Then the black cloud venomous snake disappeared from Ling Pengyun's eyes without a trace. And the water shield that it used to borrow power also had no more power, and turned into a spiritual light and disappeared. Seeing this scene, Ling Pengyun frowned even more. Snake monsters are the most vengeful and have a very sensitive sense of smell. Ling Pengyun has heard of snake monsters seeking revenge for miles. If I don't kill this snake, I can't think of walking out of this dense forest safely. Ling Pengyun said helplessly. This kind of enemy is in the dark, and he feels helpless, which really makes Ling Pengyun feel like a cold thorn in his back. According to the breath left by the black cloud viper just now, this black cloud viper should have just entered the middle stage of key training not long ago. This is a good thing for me. Since this matter cannot be resolved peacefully, Ling Pengyun naturally intends to go all out. He patted the storage bag on his waist and took out a black shield and 2 water shield symbols from it. He held the black shield tightly in his left hand and the 2 water shield symbols in his right hand, ready to use the water shield symbols at any time. His spiritual sense was also arranged around him to be alert to the black cloud viper's sneak attack. As for the black iron sword, it was suspended beside him. The black shield was called the black iron shield. Although the grade was only the first grade lower grade, it was also the best in the same grade. This item was also given by his parents. Ling Pengyun did not stop leaving the dense forest, but his speed slowed down a lot. Being in this dense forest full of weeds is the world of the black cloud viper, and it can cover its body at will. If he could leave the dense forest and go to an open area before the next attack of the Moyan viper, that would be Ling Pengyun's advantage, and the Moyan viper would have nowhere to hide, and Ling Pengyun could kill it with one sword. Whether it was the Moyan viper or the other venomous snakes, they all had a disadvantage. Their bodies were far weaker than other monsters, and their melee ability was extremely weak, so they played to their strengths and avoided their weaknesses, and liked to launch sneak attacks. In the remaining 10 breaths of time, the surroundings were silent, without a single movement. Just as a breeze blew through the dense forest, and the surrounding trees that covered the sky dropped dead leaves, the Moyan viper hiding in the dark seized the opportunity, and fell from a tree close to Ling Pengyun along with the fallen leaves, and attacked Ling Pengyun's head directly. However, this time Ling Pengyun was prepared, and had arranged his spiritual sense to be alert around him. It was good that the Moyan viper was restrained in its breath and hidden in the dark, but once it attacked, its breath leaked, and its body was naturally exposed to Ling Pengyun's spiritual sense. Finally here, Ling Pengyun waved his hand to activate the 2 water shield talismans in his hand, summoning 2 water shields to block his head, and at the same time, he struck out the black iron sword and killed the falling black cloud venomous snake. Even so, Ling Pengyun still felt unsafe, and silently chanted, "Thorns. Transform into armor." In an instant, the finger-length thorny vine attached to Ling Pengyun's chest suddenly branched out countless branches, even breaking through Ling Pengyun's linen Taoist robe. The thorny vines wrapped around Ling Pengyun's whole body, wrapping him tightly, like a layer of wooden armor, leaving only 2 eyes. The barbs on the vines were all restrained, and did not hurt Ling Pengyun, the owner. In the sky, the black cloud venomous snake was fast in the process of falling, but the black iron sword was faster. Before the black cloud venomous snake fell, the black iron sword chopped it firmly on its body, cutting it in 2. Seeing this scene, Ling Pengyun was overjoyed. Unexpectedly, at this moment, A smaller black cloud snake with a cultivation level at the initial stage of key training suddenly jumped out from the bushes near Ling Pengyun's feet and bit the wooden vine protecting Ling Pengyun's right foot. This attack really scared Ling Pengyun. There is actually a second black cloud snake. He waved his hand hurriedly, and in an instant, he summoned a water thorn, nailing the black cloud snake biting the wooden vine on his right foot to the ground, and then swung the black iron sword and cut off its head with one sword. Chapter 18 Harvest. After the second black cloud snake was killed, he looked at the vine protecting his right foot. He saw that the bitten part of the vine wrapped around his right foot quickly turned black and wilted, and even the dripping liquid continued to spread along the vine, eroding the rest of the vines. Ling Pengyun made a prompt decision and had no choice but to swing the black iron sword to directly cut off the vines that were stained with the black cloud snake venom in order to save the remaining thorn vines. This thorny vine was his life planned. Once this thorny vine was poisoned by the venom, he, as the owner, would definitely be seriously injured. This method was indeed effective, but Ling Pengyun had just cut off a lot of thorny vines in order to prevent the spread of the venom, which caused the thorny vines to suffer considerable injuries. In the next 6 months, I'm afraid that this thorny vine will not be able to help me fight anymore. I can only suspend the matter of mobilizing the Yimu power in its body to try to improve the spiritual rise for half a year. But fortunately, I have this wooden armor to protect me. Otherwise, if I was bitten by the more poisonous snake in the early stage of key training, I'm afraid my right foot would not be saved. Ling Pengyun sighed inwardly with lingering fear in his heart. The first-grade top-grade detoxification pill that can detoxify the venom of the more poisonous snake is too precious. Even in the general affairs hall of the Ling family, there are only a few. In order to avoid this dense forest and the more poisonous snake, Ling Pengyun did not dare to remove the water shield transformed by the 2 water shield talismans and the wooden vine armor on his body. He looked at the bodies of the 2 more poisonous snakes on the ground, and his eyes suddenly flashed with an amazing light. With this harvest, the injury to my life spirit planned and the 3 water shield talismans I spent are not a loss. The water shield talisman is a first-level medium-grade defensive spirit talisman, which is sold at 5 spirit stones on the market. In this battle, he consumed 3 water shield talismans, which is equivalent to throwing away 15 spirit stones. Although these 3 water shield talismans were all gifts from the family, Ling Pengyun still felt a little distressed. However, the cost of the water shield talisman is insignificant compared to the bodies of the 2 black cloud venomous snakes. After putting the venomous snake bodies into the storage bag, Ling Pengyun was alert and his spiritual sense was still arranged around. Then he slowly walked away from this place. After half a mile out of the dense forest, Ling Pengyun stopped running and turned around. Seeing that there were no other black cloud venomous snakes following him, he let out a long breath, his face full of lingering fear. When I passed through this dense forest on the way here, there was no danger. I didn't expect to encounter this when I returned. Ling Pengyun complained. That dense forest was the place that he had to pass through on the way back to Anyang County. When he went to Pingyun County of Yunwuwen clan, he had also passed through that dense forest, but he did not encounter any accidents at that time. Without the danger, he also withdrew his spiritual consciousness and the 2 water shields suspended around him. He also took back the black iron shield and the wooden vine armor. Maintaining these 4 means of defense also consumes Ling Pengyun's spiritual power. In the barren land, the biggest danger is to have no spiritual power. Without the wooden vine armor, his body was also exposed to the outside world. The previous Taoist robe had long been stretched into rags by thorns and vines. Ling Pengyun hurriedly called out the Taoist robe of the Ling clan from the storage bag and put it on. After running at full speed, Ling Pengyun finally rushed back to Qingshi Mountain in the middle of the night. After traveling thousands of miles and fighting once, Ling Pengyun's spiritual power was almost completely consumed. As soon as he returned to Qingshi Mountain, he took out a spiritual peach that he had bought at the Yunwu market, swallowed it, and practiced the skills to refine the pulp and restore his spiritual power. He opened his eyes only when his dantian was filled with spiritual power. The spiritual power in this spiritual peach is indeed milder than the medicinal power of the same level Huangaya pill, and there is no impurity. It only needs to be slightly refined and sent to the dantian to become my own spiritual power. It is much stronger than taking Huangaya pill, which requires refining the medicinal power of the pill into spiritual energy first, and then condensing it into spiritual power. It is much more convenient. If I replace Huangaya pill with the spiritual peach in the future, my cultivation speed will be more than 30% faster. But this spiritual peach is good, but it is too expensive. Ling Pengyun said helplessly. No wonder among the four most important things for cultivators, wealth, companions, and land, wealth is the first. Ling Pengyun sighed helplessly and put this matter aside. Spiritual stones are hard to earn. It is better to cherish what is in front of you if you think too much. It's good to have elixirs to help you every day. If you still want to be better, but you can't do it yourself, isn't it the same as being too ambitious, which will inevitably affect your Tao heart? Ling Pengyun took out the results of the daytime battle from the storage bag, and the bodies of the two more venomous snakes fell to the ground. He carefully took out the venom from the two more venomous snakes, put them in two different empty medicine bottles, and then put a note on each of them, marking more venomous snake venom in the middle stage of key training and more venomous snake venom in the early stage of key training. Looking at the two bottles of venom in his hand, Ling Pengyun's eyes were full of joy, and he muttered to himself, "If I can let the 8th ancestor use these two bottles of black cloud venomous snake venom to help me refine two explosive poison beads, they will be enough to become two powerful weapons. If the timing of firing the two explosive poison beads is very good, even a cultivator in the late stage of key training may be killed by me." The 8th ancestor mentioned by Ling Pengyun is named Ling Yunan, the only weapon refiner of the Ling family, and his rank is the first-class middle grade. The two magic weapons that Ling Yunan is best at refining are the explosive poison beads and the Qingshi sword. The explosive poison beads are a bead-shaped magic weapon. Once they hit the enemy, they can explode with venom. It is an extremely insidious magic weapon. However, living in this world of immortal cultivation, as long as it can enhance strength and survive in battle, not to mention the insidious magic weapons, even the magic weapons of the magic way are used by many cultivators. Ling Pengyun was delighted, and then he put the two medicine bottles of venom in his hand back into the storage bag. Then, his eyes fell on the bodies of the two black cloud venomous snakes. This more venomous snake is not good at physical strength, and the spiritual energy contained in its flesh and blood is pitifully small, far less than 30% of the same level monsters that are good at physical strength. The flesh and blood of the more venomous snake in the middle stage of key training can be kept and eaten as a source of my spiritual energy, which can also increase a little spiritual power. As for the flesh and blood of the more venomous snake in the early stage of key training, it is useless to me. The spiritual energy is extremely thin. Recently, I have been tired of eating snake soup and roasted snake meat. This early stage of key training will be rewarded to the yellow-haired sparrow guarding the spiritual field. Perhaps this snake meat can improve the cultivation of the sparrow a little. Because this Qingshi Mountain was a nest of snakes in the past, although the snakes in this Qingshi Mountain have long been destroyed, there are still many small snakes in the acquired and innate realms around Qingshi Mountain. Recently, the Lingxiao guards of Qingshi village often capture snake monsters in the innate realm and offer them to Ling Pengyun for consumption. Now, when Ling Pengyun yawns, I am afraid that it smells like snake meat. Having made up his mind, Ling Pengyun began to collect the other spiritual parts of the two black cloud venomous snakes, including the snake gall, snake blood, and snake skin. The snake gall can be used as the main ingredient of the detoxification pill, the snake blood can be used to refine talisman ink, and the snake skin can be used to make Taoist robes or talisman paper. Ling Pengyun collected the spiritual objects from the two black cloud venomous snakes and put them into the storage bag. Then he carried the snake meat of the black cloud venomous snake in the early stage of key training to the top of the mountain. Thanks to Gui Yabe, Big Brother, for the reward, thank you. Chapter 19, Road Construction. The top of the mountain. The yellow-haired sparrow, the guardian of the 6-acre spiritual field, saw Ling Pengyun coming with a piece of snake meat containing spiritual energy. His expression suddenly brightened, and he immediately landed at Ling Pengyun's feet, lowering his head to rub against Ling Pengyun's feet. Ling Pengyun was quite satisfied with the yellow-haired sparrow's behavior. He threw the snake meat of the more poisonous snake in the early stage of key training on the ground and said, "Eat it." The yellow-haired sparrow could understand Ling Pengyun's words because of the master recognition restriction between it and Ling Pengyun. It looked happy, walked quickly to the snake meat, opened its beak, and ate the snake meat containing spiritual energy like a hungry wolf. Even though its stomach was bulging and swollen, it did not stop eating the snake meat. It ate a third of the snake meat, but the fist-sized yellow-haired sparrow could no longer hold on, so it stopped. But after only half a breath, the yellow-haired sparrow's eyes became blurry, its steps became weak, and it fainted. This move really scared Ling Pengyun. He quickly probed into the unconscious sparrow's body. After this exploration, he found out that the yellow-haired sparrow was just overwhelmed by the spiritual energy in the snake meat because it ate too much snake meat containing spiritual energy, and it did not have the spiritual energy circulation route inherited by the bloodline like the monster beasts. This sparrow is really... Ling Pengyun was speechless. In order to make the yellow-haired sparrow wake up quickly, Ling Pengyun input spiritual power into the sparrow's body, guiding the spiritual energy in the snake meat in its belly to circulate in its meridians throughout its body, enhancing its cultivation. Even if it didn't do so, after some time, the spiritual energy contained in the snake meat in the yellow-haired sparrow's belly would dissipate on its own, and it would wake up. Not long after, the snake meat spiritual energy in the yellow-haired sparrow's belly was absorbed by the sparrow under Ling Pengyun's guidance, enhancing its cultivation. As a result, its cultivation level broke through to the 4th level of the innate realm, and it woke up immediately. Feeling the increase in strength, the yellow-haired sparrow was ecstatic, and cried happily twice, ran to Ling Pengyun's feet, and kept rubbing his right foot. "I'll take the remaining snake meat first. I'll come to feed you tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Guard the spiritual plants in the 6-acre spiritual field on the top of the mountain. If there are flying insects eating them, you don't have to live anymore. If you do your best, I will find more spiritual objects in the future to feed you and help you improve your cultivation." Ling Pengyun looked serious, first made a harsh remark, and then took out a sweet date. The yellow-haired sparrow heard the meaning of this remark clearly, and the previous threatening words were directly thrown behind it. For it, guarding the field for this powerful human race in front of it was completely its opportunity. Every day, it just caught some flying insects that came here to eat the spiritual plants, and was given snake meat in the early stage of key training. Who knows, if he works more for this famous race, he will be given a better spiritual object. It is possible that he can break through to the key training realm that no bird has ever stepped into in his ancestors' lifetime, and embark on the immortal path and live happily ever after. His expression suddenly became fiery, and he rubbed Ling Pengyun's right foot harder to show his loyalty. "Okay, guard this spiritual field well." Ling Pengyun left this sentence, and then put away the remaining body of the more poisonous snake in the early stage of key training on the ground, walked to the edge of the 6-acre spiritual field, and cast spiritual rain one by one, and then returned to the cave halfway up the mountain to absorb the power of the moonlight for a while. Afterwards, he closed his eyes and practiced the skills, refining the remaining spiritual power of the spiritual peach he had taken before, and improving his cultivation. In the process of cultivation, time passed very quickly, and before he knew it, another day had passed. Being awake when the sun rises is engraved in Ling Pengyun's mind. Every time this time comes, Ling Pengyun will feel it, and the idea of absorbing the power of the early sun will appear in his mind. Ling Pengyun stopped practicing his skills, stepped to the entrance of the cave, absorbed the power of the early sun for a while, cast a spiritual rain to irrigate the 6 acres of spiritual fields on the top of the mountain, then cast a light body technique, went down the mountain, and found Ling Dong, the village chief of Qingshi Mountain. He told him that he had returned to Qingshi Mountain, and asked Ling Dong to gather people to prepare for road construction. "If you want to get rich, you must first build roads. This is the inheritance imprinted in Ling Pengyun's bones." This proposal was also agreed by Ling Dong. "If you want to sell the rice that matures at the end of the year in Xiazi town, 300 miles away, you must have a good road that can be used by carriages. If it is still like now, the surrounding area of Qingshi village is full of stones, potholes, and even dirt roads. It will definitely increase the time to transport grain for sale, resulting in a saturated grain market outside and difficulty in selling Qingshi village's grain." At the beginning of the road construction, the villagers of Qingshi village were somewhat opposed. After all, road construction is extremely time-consuming, not to mention that it would take at least half a year to build a road that goes straight to Xiazi town for 300 miles. They also have to work on farm work and wait for the rice to mature at the end of the year to make a fortune. How can they have time to build roads? But when they heard about the seriousness of not building roads and that Ling Pengyun, the immortal leader, would give up his great interests and rain down spiritual rain for a long time to ripen the 50 acres of rice planted in Qingshi village into pseudo-immortal rice, the villagers of Qingshi village agreed without any objection. Starting from the next day, Qingshi Village also launched a huge road construction project. More than 500 villagers participated in the road construction, all of whom were young and strong men, and even more than 100 Lingxiao guards of the acquired and innate realms in Qingshi Village. Because it was just the simplest dirt road, it only needed to be clean, without too many tedious steps. In addition, the villagers of Qingshi Village were also very motivated, which made the daily progress of the road construction change with each passing day. However, in just 40 days, the villagers of Qingshi Village built a dirt road of nearly 100 miles. I am afraid that within 3 months, this dirt road will be completed and lead directly to Xiazi Town, 300 miles away. The villages and towns of the Ling family are built according to the grade of the spiritual veins. Only a small number of ordinary villages can be built near the lower and middle grade spiritual veins of the first grade, and the cultivators in the middle stage of key training will be stationed. Only when the grade of the spiritual vein reaches the upper grade of the first grade can a town with more than 10,000 people be built nearby, and the spiritual vein will also have cultivators who have reached the late stage of key training stationed. This situation is also because the Ling family is afraid that there are too many ordinary people, and the strength of the garrison cultivators is low, and it is difficult to protect the ordinary people, which will attract demon cultivators to harm those ordinary people and use the lives of ordinary people to sacrifice magic weapons. Such things often happen in the world of immortal cultivation. In Yanshu County, where the Ling family originally lived, there were 2 forces of demon cultivation. If the Ling family had not been attached to the Pengyun Yang family in Yanshu County, they would have been destroyed by the demon cultivation long ago. In Xiazi Town, there is a late-stage key training cultivator of the Ling family with a character Yun stationed to protect the safety of the area. At the same time, if the subordinate villages are in danger, the clansmen stationed in Xiazi Town will immediately support them. Qingshi Village is under the jurisdiction of Xiazi Town. Thanks to Gui Yabe for the 100-point reward. Chapter 20, Giant Python in the Lake. On this day, a familiar guest came to Qingshi Mountain. This familiar guest was Ling Ruguo, who had escorted more than 3,000 ordinary clansmen from Xiazi Mountain to settle around Qingshi Mountain a few months ago. The main purpose of his visit was to distribute Ling Pengyun's salary for the next 6 months. For clansmen sent abroad, the Ling family adopted a one-time payment of half a year's salary to reduce the situation where clansmen who went out had difficulty receiving salaries. For clansmen stationed in low-level spiritual mountains within the family, there would be a special person who would personally come to their door to distribute salaries between June and July every year. As for why the salary was not paid in 1 year or even 2 or 3 years, it was also very simple. The Ling family could not come up with so many resources at once. Qingshi Mountain, the top of the mountain. Pengyun, on the way from Xiazi Mountain to Qingshi Mountain, I saw Ling Dong leading more than 500 Qingshi village villagers to build a road. According to Ling Dong, was this something you proposed? Ling Ruguo looked at Ling Pengyun with an admiring look and asked. Ling Pengyun saw the change in Ling Ruguo's expression and naturally guessed that this question was not a bad thing, so he told the truth and praised Ling Ruguo's descendants. Yes, it was the great-grandson's idea, but the smooth organization of so many villagers is also thanks to village chief Ling. Without his help, it would be difficult for the great-grandson to implement this method. You, kid, don't let Ling Dong's skills be hidden. I know how capable he is. Besides, as a mortal member of my Ling family, how dare I not listen to you, a garrison cultivator? If that's the case, this Qingshi village doesn't need to exist. You want to improve their lives, but they don't know it. It's a joke. Ling Ruguo said domineeringly. Then he praised Ling Pengyun for leading the road construction. But your proposal to build a road is indeed a good one. If you want to improve the prosperity of Qingshi village, you really need to build a road. Moreover, the tens of thousands of ordinary people in Xiazi Town will have a better life with the food supply of Qingshi village. I won't say much about the compliments. Just remember, no matter whether you do something big or small for the family will know and will never forget what you have done. Ling Ruguo said with a solemn expression. Ling Pengyun's expression moved slightly and he replied. Great-grandfather, I understand. I still have 11 clansmen stationed at spiritual veins. If I haven't been there to distribute their salaries, I won't delay them any longer. This is your salary for the next 6 months, which is 60 spiritual stones, 120 kilograms of green jade spiritual rice, 6 key training pills, and 12 yellow bud pills. My 11th brother has already told me that the family gives you 2 extra yellow bud pills every month. If I hadn't been told, it would have been difficult for me to pass it on to you. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone about this. Ling Ruguo took out a storage bag from his arms, summoned Ling Pengyun's offerings for the next 6 months, and said solemnly. Ling Pengyun bowed his hands and thanked him. Thank you, third great-grandfather. Then, he took out 2 bottles of venom and 20 spiritual stones from the storage bag that he had obtained by killing the black cloud venomous snake more than 40 days ago, and said to Ling Ruguo, Third great-grandfather, these are the 2 bottles of venom and 2 snake gallbladders I got from killing the Moin venomous snake a few days ago. I would like to ask you to pass them on to the 8th and 10th ancestors so that they can help me refine the explosive poison beads and detoxification pills. The extra 20 spirit stones are for the 2 ancestors to buy the remaining refining materials needed to refine the explosive poison beads and detoxification pills. Ling Pengyun's 10th ancestor is the 10th of the Ling family's Yun generation, and he is also the only alchemist in the Ling family. His alchemy grade is the 1st level middle grade, and most of the elixirs that flow out of the family are made by him. The 8th ancestor is naturally Ling Yunan, the weapon refiner. Moin poisonous snake? Good boy. You can kill this monster, and 2 of them. It's not easy. In the future, whether you fight with monsters or cultivators, don't fight to the death. If you can't win, run away first. Don't hold on. I will help you talk to Yunan about refining the explosive poison beads, but I can't guarantee whether he will have time. Recently, I feel that my time is coming. In less than a year, I am afraid that my lifespan will be exhausted. My only grandson who is not ambitious and has no spiritual roots, please take care of him. Ling Ruguo took the 2 bottles of venom and 20 spirit stones handed by Ling Pengyun, turned around, and said in a deep voice. After that, he jumped on the back of the fairy crane in the middle stage of key refining next to him, and flew away from Qingshi Mountain on the fairy crane. Ling Pengyun looked at Ling Ruguo's hunchback, his mood gradually became low, and he also had some resonance. The lifespan of this key training period is only 100 years. If I can't build a foundation, I will definitely turn into a piece of yellow earth in 100 years. I don't know if I can find the way to immortality. Immortality. 3 great-grandfather. Ling Pengyun stood blankly on the top of the Qingshi Mountain for half an hour before he came to his senses. Immortality is too far away, take it step by step. At present, the closest thing to me is the bottleneck of the 6th level of key training. Ling Pengyun looked determined, muttered to himself, and returned to the cave halfway up the mountain to continue his daily hard training. As early as half a month ago, Ling Pengyun successfully broke through the bottleneck that had trapped him for several months with the help of 2 spiritual peaches with mild spiritual power and no impurities, and was promoted to the 5th level of key training. In the 6 months in Qingshi Mountain, in addition to the gains in cultivation, Ling Pengyun's water arrow technique, which he practiced hard every day, was also successfully comprehended to the great success realm, enough to be able to perform within 3 breaths. In addition to this technique, Ling Pengyun also learned a water defense spell, Water Shield, after experiencing the attack of the Moin venomous snake more than 40 days ago. Water Shield is a 1st level medium grade spell, and its effect is the same as that of the Water Shield talisman, which is to create a water shield. Because this technique is a defensive spell, it is more difficult to comprehend. Even though Ling Pengyun has a good talent in water spells, he has only just started in 40 days. It is far less fast than comprehending the water thorn and water arrow. As for Ling Pengyun's thorny vines, they are also slowly recovering and replenishing their origins and recovering from their injuries during the process of Ling Pengyun's daily use of spiritual power. After more than 110 days, the muddy road leading to Xiazi town, which is more than 300 miles away, has been repaired. The day has also come to the autumnal equinox, and the thousands of acres of rice planted by the villagers of Qingshi village have also reached maturity. The unique fragrance of rice also drifts around the entire Qingshi village. In the rice fields, the golden ears of wheat are not only their food for the coming year, but also a lot of copper coins in the eyes of the villagers of Qingshi village. Many families have already thought about what to buy with the money they earn from selling the extra rice to Xiazi town. Should they buy some clothes for their children, build a bigger house, or buy a cow or sheep? When the villagers of Qingshi village were enjoying the joy of the harvest, a black shadow appeared in the usually quiet Qingshi lake, swallowing a child who was playing alone in the lake silently. At this time, the black shadow showed its shape, which was a blue giant python as big as a millstone. After swallowing the child in one bite, its belly also swelled up. After filling its stomach, the blue giant python looked at the golden rice fields where cheers came from, and a greedy desire flashed in its cold eyes. Then it looked up at the Qingshi Mountain, which was dozens of feet high not far away, and fear appeared in its eyes. In just 3 breaths, the giant blue python, which had eaten its fill, quietly disappeared into the lake, leaving no trace. Chapter 21 The Demonic Python. Qingshi Mountain, beside the 6-acre spiritual field on the top of the mountain. Although Ling Pengyun is a cultivator, he works in the spiritual field like the ordinary people in Qingshi village. However, the ordinary people in Qingshi village are harvesting rice, while Ling Pengyun is pulling out weeds in the 6-acre spiritual field. The growth cycle of spiritual plants is different from that of plants in the secular world. For example, the rice in the outside world is ripe, but the topaz spiritual rice that has been planted in Qingshi Mountain is still not ripe. Spiritual plants grow according to the year. There were no weed seeds in the 6-acre spiritual field. The origin of these weeds is that in this harvest season, some special plants, such as the pappus of dandelions in this season, fluttered in the wind and accidentally fell into the 6-acre spiritual field of Qingshi Mountain. Therefore, the spiritual soil in the spiritual field here contains gentle spiritual power, and ordinary plants can thrive within 3 days of being buried. As for pulling out these weeds, it is because their growth absorbs the spiritual energy in the spiritual soil as nutrients, which will more or less affect the growth of the spiritual plants in the same 1-acre spiritual field. Since the beginning of autumn, thousands of plants have been competing to mature. Basically, every time Ling Pengyun pulls out the weeds in the 6-acre spiritual field, a new batch of weeds will grow 3 days later. It took nearly half an incense stick of time for Ling Pengyun to carefully sweep the spiritual soil at the roots of the weeds and pull out all the weeds in the 6-acre spiritual field. He piled the weeds pulled out this time together, summoned a flame to burn them to ashes, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and looked at the 6-acre spiritual field next to him. The yellow jade spiritual rice, which had grown wheat ears and was as high as a leg, the 3-inch high key training grass, and the sword star grass that looked like a long sword, smiled. According to the time, this batch of spiritual plants have been buried for more than 8 months. Judging from the appearance of the topaz spiritual rice, key training grass, and sword star grass planted in these 6 acres of spiritual fields, they will mature one after another in November of this year in no more than 2 months, which is 1 month earlier than my original plan of maturing before the end of the year. This is a good thing. Then, let these 3 acres of spiritual plants grow longer in the spiritual fields, and the spiritual energy contained will be more. When the elders of the clan come to harvest these spiritual plants, it will be the time for me to take a share of the profits from the 2 acres of topaz spiritual rice. After that, I can use this harvest to go to the Yunwu market and buy a batch of yellow bud pills, 2 more first-grade medium-quality spiritual fruits, and even have enough spirit stones to buy a flying magic weapon. Ha. 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 In order to prevent the clan members stationed in the outer spiritual veins from embezzling, the spiritual plants planted on the spiritual veins cannot be harvested privately by the monks stationed there, and they can only wait for the clan to send someone to harvest them. 3 days later, Ling Dong came to the foot of Qingshi Mountain half a mile away from Qingshi village alone with an anxious look on his face, and shouted loudly, "Immortal Master!" Not long after he finished speaking, a green figure floated down from the halfway point of Qingshi Mountain. This person was Ling Pengyun, who was stationed in Qingshi Mountain. Ling Pengyun was very confused by Ling Dong's sudden call at the foot of the mountain. He did not even blame Ling Dong for disturbing his cultivation. Instead, he saw Ling Dong's anxious look and asked as soon as he landed on the ground, "Village Master Ling, what troubles have you encountered?" Ling Dong said with a choked voice, "Master, a demon python of key training realm appeared in Qingshi Lake. In the past 3 days, it swallowed a child from Qingshi village, 3 women washing clothes by the lake, and a strong man carrying water to irrigate the rice fields by the lake. Even the 3 Lingxiao guards wearing heavy armor who found the trace of the demon python, only one survived, and the other 2 were brutally killed by the demon python for trying to stop it from committing crimes." As a direct descendant of a cultivator, Ling Dong also heard about the approximate realm of some cultivators from his elders when he was young. A demon python of key training realm committed crimes in Qingshi Lake. Ling Pengyun said in surprise, "That's right, Master, Everything I said is true. As early as 3 days ago, a child disappeared in Qingshi village. If someone hadn't personally seen the appearance of the demon python, I wouldn't dare to disturb Master's cultivation. Ling Dong hurriedly explained to Ling Pengyun to prevent him from not believing him. Ling Pengyun had dealt with Ling Dong before. Although he was a warrior, he was a thoughtful and upright person. It was impossible for him to lie about the demon python. Then this must be true. But 9 months ago, when Ling Pengyun first came to the vicinity of Qingshi Mountain, he inspected the Qingshi Lake. He even used his spiritual sense to explore the Qingshi Lake, but did not find any traces of demon beasts. Now a demon python suddenly appeared, which was strange. There were Lingxiao guards patrolling around Qingshi village day and night. It was obviously impossible for the evil snake demon to avoid Lingxiao guards and enter Qingshi Lake. Then it could only be. Could it be from the dark river at the bottom of the lake? Ling Pengyun's expression moved slightly, and he guessed secretly. Qingshi Lake has no upper stream. The water in the lake comes from the dark river in the lake, and its downstream branches next to Qingshi village. It is impossible for the demon python not to disturb the villagers of Qingshi village. I'll go to Qingshi Lake to inspect it first. Ling Pengyun knew the seriousness of the matter, and he tapped the ground with his footsteps, and hurried towards Qingshi Lake lightly and quickly. As a cultivator stationed in one place, if the death toll in the village under his command was too high, he would be punished by the family. Moreover, Ling Pengyun couldn't stand it. He couldn't stand the monster committing crimes under his nose. Qingshi Mountain was not far from Qingshi Lake, only half a mile away. In less than 10 breaths, Ling Pengyun arrived at the edge of Qingshi Lake. As soon as he approached Qingshi Lake, Ling Pengyun summoned a black iron shield and black iron sword, and held a water shield talisman tightly. The 3 water shield talismans given to him by the family had long been consumed in the matter of the Moan poisonous snake. The water shield talisman he had now was one of the 3 water shield talismans given by Ling Ruguo. Ling Pengyun mobilized his spiritual sense and carefully inspected around Qingshi Lake, but did not find any trace of the demon python. Although my spiritual sense is stronger than that of the cultivators of the same level, and now it can cover a distance of 65 feet, this Qingshi Lake is so large that it is thousands of feet wide. This time, I did not find any trace of the demon python. I guess it has been hiding near the center of the lake. This is troublesome. We cultivators are not good at water. Once we enter the water, our strength will be weakened by more than 30%. I don't know the strength of the demon python, and I dare not enter the lake easily. In this case, I can only wait passively. If this demon python does not come out, I am afraid I can't do anything to it. Ling Pengyun looked at the Qingshi Lake in front of him, which was thousands of feet wide, and said helplessly. Then, he stepped lightly and found Ling Dong, who had just returned to the village in Qingshi village. He discussed with him and called a few children to play in the shallow water area of Qingshi Lake in a few days to lure the demon python hidden in the lake to show its body and commit crimes. Ling Dong naturally knew why this behavior was done immediately. He looked embarrassed and said helplessly, "Master, now the whole village knows that there is a demon python in the Qingshi Lake. Not to mention children, even adults dare not approach the Qingshi Lake easily. It is difficult to let children go to lure the demon python in the lake to commit crimes. How about? I will do it." Ling Dong gritted his teeth and hesitated for a while, and said. Hearing this, Ling Pengyun looked at Ling Dong in surprise, and couldn't help but think highly of him, thinking in his heart. As expected of the grandson of the 3rd great-grandfather, if this person has spiritual roots and takes on this responsibility, my Ling family will have one more talent, but it's a pity. Okay, you can do it. But don't worry, I will definitely save you before the demon python commits a crime. Ling Pengyun comforted. Well. Ling Dong lowered his head and didn't say much. Ling Pengyun thought about it again and said. But today is not the right time. My search around the lake just now must have alarmed the demon python. If you go to the lake now, it will definitely make the demon python suspicious. We will take action in 2 days. As for the next 2 days, you warn the villagers to stay in the house as much as possible. I will also stay in this Qingshi village to prevent the demon python from running away. Ling Dong heard it and said gratefully. On behalf of the 3,000 villagers of Qingshi village, I thank the Immortal for his help. We are all from the same bloodline, connected by bones and tendons. No need to say more, find a place for me to live. Ling Pengyun said. Immortal, Qingshi village has just been established, and there are no empty houses. If you don't mind, are you willing to live in my room? Ling Dong said. Yes. Ling Pengyun responded. Thanks, Gui Yabe for the 100-point reward. Thanks, book friend 2021081213443248 book friend 2021081810494760 for the monthly ticket. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22. The talisman seriously injures the demonic python. Time passed quickly. During the 2 days when Ling Pengyun was in charge of Qingshi Lake, the demon python in Qingshi Lake did not come out to commit crimes because Ling Pengyun patrolled the lake a few days ago. This situation also made Ling Pengyun secretly guess that the demon python in the lake might not have a high cultivation level, at least not a demon python in the late stage of key training. If the demon python's cultivation level was far higher than his, how could it hide from Ling Pengyun? 2 days ago, when Ling Pengyun was patrolling Qingshi Lake, it would directly jump out, kill him, swallow him into its stomach, and transform it into cultivation. Wouldn't it be better? For demon beasts, cultivators are like panaceas, which can help to improve their cultivation. Moreover, the meat of cultivators is more delicious than that of mortals. No demon beast can refuse to eat a cultivator. On this day, Ling Dong, under the instruction of Ling Pengyun, went down to the lake alone and pretended to catch fish in the lake. In order to be real, he even wore only an inner armor. But even if he wore full body armor, it would be difficult to save his life in the hands of the key training monster. Ling Pengyun, on the other hand, restrained his breath and hid in a room closest to Qingshi Lake, ready to support Ling Dong, who was luring the demon python in Qingshi Lake more than 50 feet away. After waiting for half an hour, there was still no movement in the lake, but Ling Dong caught a lot of fish. But at this time, he was not happy at all. Instead, his clothes on his back were already soaked with cold sweat, and his heart was always hanging. He tried his best to suppress the fear of the demon python in the lake. Not knowing where the danger was, but knowing that there was danger coming, this feeling was extremely uncomfortable, and the fear in his heart would be infinitely magnified. He had already thought of dozens of ways to die by the demon python in his mind. Time passed by, and suddenly he saw a huge black shadow flashing in the lake more than 10 feet away. His heart trembled suddenly, and he did not dare to wait and see too much. He turned his head quickly and immediately guessed that it was the demon python. But he didn't dare to shout loudly or run back to the shore in a hurry, and continued to fish. The demon python was good at water, and although it was in shallow water, it was still some distance from the shore. Ling Dong couldn't guarantee whether the immortal from Qingshi Mountain could arrive in time to stop the demon python and kill it. It was possible that the demon python that was good at water would escape and harm the villagers of Qingshi village again in the future. Ling Dong didn't want to see such a thing. As the village chief of Qingshi village, if there were too many abnormal deaths in the village under his management, he would not only be dismissed, but also difficult to walk the road of power and nobility for the rest of his life. He would still be a mediocre farmer after all. His ancestors were all monks, and although he was immortal, he was unwilling to become ordinary. Rather than being dismissed by the clan in the future, it would be better to fight and let the demon python get closer to him, and then call the immortal for help, giving the immortal more opportunities to stop the demon python that was good at water from escaping. The huge black shadow was extremely fast, and in just a moment, it came within 3 feet of Ling Dong. Just as the demon python lurking in the water was about to swallow the delicious human Ling Dong in one bite, a black iron flying sword flew from the direction of Qingshi village at an extremely fast speed, and in an instant, it hit the head of the demon python that suddenly jumped out of the water. The black iron flying sword was extremely sharp. With one strike, it directly shattered the hard blue scales of the demon python and penetrated into the flesh of the demon python's head, an inch deep. Hiss! The blue demon python screamed loudly in pain. Ling Dong, you can retreat. A slightly excited voice came from the direction of Qingshi village. Ling Dong saw the demon python's figure appearing and coming out. The huge figure came into his eyes, and he had already thought about escaping. Now, when the immortal spoke, he quickly stimulated the blood and ki in his body, mobilized his innate perfect cultivation, exerted force with his feet, and quickly ran to the shore. Then, 2 ice spikes flew from the direction of Qingshi village again. However, their target was not the demon python, but the lake water around it. As soon as the 2 ice spikes came into contact with the lake water, they quickly froze the lake water, turning the half-zang lake water around the demon python into a layer of ice, trapping it temporarily. The demon python was not helpless either. When it realized that it was trapped by the ice, it was very angry. It shook its head to throw away the black iron flying sword that had penetrated into its flesh and blood, and then swung its body as strong as a millstone to directly break the surrounding ice. After it escaped, it did not run away. Instead, it ran towards a young man in a Taoist robe who was running towards it from the village. It roared angrily and spit out a 3-inch long water arrow at the young man. The young man who rushed towards the demon python in the shallow water area of Qingshi Lake was naturally the cultivator Ling Pengyun. Ling Pengyun saw the water arrows shot by the demon python, and held the black iron shield in his left hand tightly, blocking it in front of him. He waved his hand to control the black iron sword thrown away by the demon python to stabilize his body, and attacked the blue demon python again. This blue-scaled water python has the same cultivation as me, both in the middle stage of key training. I am afraid that it will be difficult to stop it with my own strength. Once it changes, it will definitely escape by controlling the water. It seems that I can only use the 3 rocket talismans given by the family. You can't catch the wolf without sacrificing the child. If I let this demon python escape this time, it will be very difficult to kill it in the future. Ling Pengyun thought about it and immediately made up his mind. He slapped the storage bag on his waist with his right hand, summoned 3 spiritual talismans with flashing red spiritual charm, injected spiritual power into it, and waved his hand to shoot. The 3 spiritual talismans were touched by the spiritual power and immediately transformed into 3 5-foot-long rockets, which blasted towards the blue-scaled water python in the shallow water area of Qingshi Lake. At this moment, the water arrow shot by the blue-scaled water python also hit Ling Pengyun's black iron shield firmly. Although the water arrow was blocked, the huge force from the water arrow hitting the black iron shield stopped Ling Pengyun's attack, forcing him to retreat several steps before he recovered. On the other side, in the shallow water area of Qingshi Lake, the blue-scaled water python saw 3 rockets with strong auras attacking it, and its face was panicked. The 3 attacks were enough to threaten its life. It was too late to dive into the water. The 3 rockets were extremely fast, so it had to resist. It roared, and a flash of light appeared around its body. It transformed into 3 water shields in succession to block in front of it. With 3 water shields blocking in front of it, it felt relieved to dive into the water. Ling Pengyun saw that the blue-scaled water python was about to flee, so he changed his fingering technique with one hand, and the speed of the black iron flying sword that was killing the blue-scaled water python increased by 3 times again. In an instant, it hit the blue-scaled water python's head again. The power of this attack was 3 times stronger, and the black iron sword penetrated into the blue-scaled water python's head by nearly 1.5 inches. Hiss! The blue-scaled water python roared again in pain, but apart from casting a resentful look at Ling Pengyun, it did not use any other means and continued to dive into the water. It knew very well that the 3 water shields it summoned could not completely resist the 3 rockets. The reason for summoning the water shields was to delay the rockets for some time and give it a chance to escape. Boom! 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 In the sky, 3 rockets bombarded the 3 water shields that blocked the blue-scaled giant python. Although the 3 rockets were transformed from talismans, they were the best of the first-class middle-grade talismans. They were all made by Ling Yunfen, the 3rd elder of the Ling family, who was a first-class upper-grade talisman master. The power of each rocket was equivalent to the rocket technique performed by a 6th-level key training cultivator with all his strength, so they were extremely powerful. The 3 water shields summoned by the demon python were destroyed in one blow. However, the 3 rockets still had 30% of their power left. Without the water shield to block them, the 3 rockets, guided by Ling Pengyun's consciousness, fiercely bombarded the huge body of the blue-scaled water python. The scales on the blue-scaled water python were blown apart, and 3 wounds several inches in size appeared on its body. As soon as the attack landed, the blue-scaled giant python successfully dived into the lake in the next moment. It was seriously injured. Although it was in great pain and hated Ling Pengyun to death, it was now seriously injured and did not dare to stay any longer. It quickly swung its body to control the water and headed towards the depths of Qingshi Lake. Damn it! Ling Pengyun, who had just arrived at the lake, cursed inwardly when he saw the blue-scaled water python dive and escape. The worst result still happened. He couldn't accept that he had spent 3 rocket talismans worth 9 spirit stones, and let the demon python escape. This made him hesitate whether to take the risk of diving into the water and chasing the blue-scaled water python that was seriously injured by the 3 rockets. My cultivation is not high, and my strength will be greatly reduced if I go deep into the water. Although the demon python is as strong as me, it is now seriously injured and its strength has been greatly reduced. If I let this demon python leave this time, it will definitely be more cautious in committing crimes in the future. It will be more difficult for me to kill it. Moreover, even if it escapes from here, I wasted 3 rocket talismans in vain this time, but I didn't make any contribution. I really feel sorry. Whether it was for Qingshi village or to avoid wasting the 3 rocket talismans, he would definitely kill the demon python today. Dear all, today I updated more than 5,000 words. I will recommend it tomorrow. Please read it. I beg you to update it at 2 o'clock in the future. Chapter 23 Successful Killing. Ling Pengyun made a prompt decision, pinched his hands together, and performed the water avoidance technique, propping up a thin blue light curtain around his body. The function of this light curtain is to isolate the water flow. When the monks go deep into the water, they can mobilize their spiritual power to push the light curtain and carry the monks in it forward in the water. Ling Pengyun rushed into the shallow water area of the lake quickly until the deep water area, and then dived into the lake. With the help of the aura of the black iron flying sword that Ling Pengyun intentionally left in the flesh and blood of the blue-scaled water python's head, he chased a blue-scaled water python that had fled far away and lost its trace. The blue-scaled water python is indeed good at water, but Ling Pengyun lost the aura of the black iron flying sword after chasing it in the water for more than 10 breaths. This situation can only mean that the black iron flying sword is very far away from him. Ling Pengyun immediately became alert and took out a water shield talisman and held it tightly in his hand, so as to prevent the blue-scaled water python from getting rid of the black iron sword that pierced its brain and returning to attack him. Fortunately, this situation did not occur. Ling Pengyun also followed the place where the aura of the black iron sword disappeared last, and came to the bottom of the lake in the central area of Qingshi Lake, next to a deep cave several feet wide. This huge cave is bottomless, but Ling Pengyun can feel that this huge cave has never stopped injecting water into Qingshi Lake. This deep cave should be the dark river that maintains the water volume in Qingshi Lake. And the origin of the blue-scaled water python is indeed as I thought, it came to Qingshi Lake through this dark river recently. Ling Pengyun guessed. 9 out of 10, the seriously injured demon python did escape along the dark river where my black iron sword aura disappeared last. He hesitated for a moment, and then went against the flow of the dark river at the bottom of the lake and chased after it. Going against a current requires a lot of spiritual power. However, after advancing 1 mile along the huge dark river, Ling Pengyun consumed nearly 10% of his spiritual power. I still have 70% of my spiritual power left. If I advance another 3 miles and fail to catch up with a blue-scaled water python, I will have to go back home, lest my spiritual power is exhausted and I am discovered by the blue-scaled giant python that has disappeared and attacked secretly. Ling Pengyun said to himself. He advanced another half a mile, and the breath of the black iron sword appeared again. This situation means that the blue-scaled water python is not far away. He restrained his breath, and his speed of advancing against the flow of the dark river slowed down a bit, quietly moving towards the breath of the black iron sword in front. 10 breaths later, Ling Pengyun approached the black iron sword 50 feet away, but did not see any traces of the black iron sword or the blue-scaled water python. After groping for a long time, Ling Pengyun finally realized that the breath of the black iron flying sword came from a cliff in the dark river. He searched for a long time and found a deep hole 1 foot wide around the cliff where the breath of the black iron sword came from. Blood smell. Ling Pengyun smelled a strong smell of blood from a distance of several feet across the long and deep hole. Without much guessing, Ling Pengyun knew that this was the way to the black iron sword and most likely the place where the seriously injured demon python was hiding. Hey, spiritual energy. Ling Pengyun just approached the entrance of the nest and also sensed a faint spiritual energy coming from it. Could it be that there are spiritual objects in it? Or spiritual veins? As soon as this thought came out, Ling Pengyun's eyes suddenly lit up. As early as when he was young, when he was still studying the knowledge of the world of cultivation in the family clan school, He was told by the elders that there are many spiritual objects in the monster's nest. It may be the spiritual objects left on the monsters that have been eaten, or spiritual plants, or a few spiritual iron ores found by monsters, or the storage bags of cultivators, etc., all of which may be found in the monster's nest. The speculation of spiritual veins comes from the spiritual energy coming from the entrance and exit of the nest. As for whether it was the spiritual energy or the spiritual veins transmitted by the spiritual object, only by entering it can we know the truth. Since he had found the trace of the blue-scaled water python, he did not hesitate to activate the water shield talisman in his hand, and transformed it into a water shield floating around his body. He pinched his hands and performed the water shield technique, arranging a water shield around his body. With 2 water shields protecting his body, Ling Pengyun felt much more at ease. Ling Pengyun obviously would not do it by following this narrow and difficult-to-fight entrance to the lair and entering the demon python's lair. He waved his hand and shot at a water thorn, hitting it along the entrance and exit of the lair at the bottom of the dark river. A dull sound of hitting the rock was heard. Then, a snake roared. Ling Pengyun's face was happy, and he said to himself, "Sure enough, it is in this foot-long cave." At this moment, he also felt the aura of the black iron sword moving and slowly approaching him. Sure enough, it's here. He stepped back a few steps, distanced himself from the entrance of the nest at the bottom of the dark river, and cast a spell with his hands, condensing 3 water spikes and a water arrow that floated beside him, waiting for the blue-scaled water python to rush out of the cave. Not long after, the blue-scaled giant python with 3 huge wounds on its body rushed out of the entrance of the nest angrily, swaying its body, and angrily killing Ling Pengyun. Ling Pengyun used the 3-inch-long water spikes and a 3-inch-long water arrow that he had already cast with a spell to bombard the blue-scaled water python. After the attack, Ling Pengyun made a spell with his hands and called back the black iron sword that had penetrated into the flesh and blood of the blue-scaled water python's head. He injected a seal containing 1/10 of his spiritual power, making the black iron sword glow with spirit, and cast it out again, attacking the blue-scaled water python together with a spell. After all, the blue-scaled water python was only a key training period monster that was stronger than a wild beast, and did not have much intelligence. Before rushing out of the nest, it did not cast a water shield in advance. For a moment, its sturdy body was like a target, being hit by 3 water spikes, a water arrow, and a black iron sword shot by Ling Pengyun. Blood flowers flowed out of its body, dyeing the surrounding water red. It screamed in pain, and its hatred for Ling Pengyun became more intense. It ignored its injuries and gritted its teeth and rushed towards Ling Pengyun, intending to use its strong flesh to hit Ling Pengyun to death. However, Ling Pengyun was prepared. He waved his hand to block the 2 water shields floating in the surrounding area in front of him, and then pinched his hands to cast a spell. In an instant, he could summon a water spike, break the strong scales of the demon python, and hide its flesh. 10 breaths later, the blue-scaled water python died under the bombardment of more than 10 water spikes from Ling Pengyun before it broke through the 2 water shields. The snake's head was full of holes pierced by the water spikes. In this battle, the water thorn technique that can be cast in an instant at the perfect state has made great contributions, and it has also strengthened Ling Pengyun's determination to comprehend magic. He looked at a blue-scaled water python that had sunk to the bottom of the dark river. Its body had long been in a mess and there was not much good left. He secretly said it was a pity. With the skin and scales of this blue-scaled water python damaged to such a state, my wish to entrust the refiner with the skin and scales of this demon python to refine a first-level medium-quality water-attributed Taoist robe seems to be gone. With a sigh, Ling Pengyun looked at the entrance and exit of the nest not far from the body of the blue-scaled giant python. Chapter 24, Zhuangshu Iron Ore Vein. Because of the previous sneak attack by the Moan venomous snake, Ling Pengyun was afraid that there was another demon python hidden in the nest, so he carefully mobilized his spiritual sense and probed into it. He found that there was no breath in it, so he followed the nest and went deep into it. As for the body of the blue-scaled water python, it was too huge, 3 feet long and as thick as a millstone. His storage bag was not that big, so he planned to plunder the demon python's nest, return, and then carry the body away. It was strange to say that although the entrance to the blue-scaled water python's nest was at the bottom of the dark river, it extended to the cliff beside the dark river and went up. After walking upward for about 10 feet, there was no water flow. After moving forward for dozens of feet, Ling Pengyun followed a passage and really came to the demon python's nest. Ling Pengyun summoned a fireball to illuminate it. The lair of the demon python should have been opened by itself. It is a circular structure with a space of only about 10 feet. Although the ground is bumpy, there are not many gravels. As soon as Ling Pengyun entered the lair, he looked in the direction of the spiritual energy he had noticed before. However, he saw that there was a 10-foot-long passage in the lair. Because of the close distance, Ling Pengyun also noticed that the spiritual energy coming out of the passage inside the lair was extremely pure water spiritual energy, without any other 5-element spiritual energy. Water-based spiritual objects. Ling Pengyun said happily. Ling Pengyun's main cultivation method is the green water art of water attribute. For him, water-based spiritual objects are much better than the other 4 5-element spiritual objects. He couldn't wait to go straight into the passage that was about 10 feet wide. As he went deeper into the passage, he hadn't reached the end. However, the water spiritual energy contained in the surrounding area became more and more pure and rich, which made Ling Pengyun more and more looking forward to what spiritual objects were behind this passage. After advancing for more than 10 feet, the passage finally came to an end. There were no spiritual plants here, only broken blue iron blocks on the ground. Ling Pengyun saw that the spiritual energy that attracted him here was coming from these blue iron blocks, and he had some impression of these iron blocks in his mind, so his brows furrowed immediately. He picked up a piece of blue iron block, looked at it carefully, and used the black iron flying sword to bombard it, but there was a sharp sound of clang of metal collision. On the blue iron block, the position attacked by the flying sword was only slightly concave. This hardness also confirmed his guess in his heart. It is not an ordinary thing that could withstand the attack of a first-level medium-quality black iron sword. After thinking for a few breaths, he exclaimed, "Zuanshu iron ore." He turned his eyes and summoned a ball of fire, and then he realized that the end of the passage was surrounded by this Zuanshu iron ore. Zuanshu iron ore vein. Ling Pengyun exclaimed again. The corners of his mouth lifted unconsciously and he laughed. Zuanshu iron ore is a first-grade medium-quality spiritual ore. Even the worst quality Zuanshu iron ore can be refined into first-grade medium-quality Zuanshu iron, which can be used to refine first-grade medium-quality magic tools. The better quality Zuanshu iron ore deep in the vein can be refined as a material for refining first-grade top-grade water-based magic tools. Who knows, there is also the spiritual iron Zuanshu iron mother that can be used as the main material for second-grade magic tools. Even if it is only the worst first-grade medium-quality Zuanshu iron ore, it can be refined into Zuanshu iron, and 1 caddy can be sold at an expensive price of 5 spiritual stones. If it is refined into a magic tool, the price will be even higher. Having a vein means having spiritual stones. With more spiritual stones, Ling Pengyun will no longer worry about the high price of spiritual peaches that are more effective than Huangaya-dan. I just don't know how large the scope of this vein is. Ling Pengyun said in surprise with his eyes flashing. The mineral veins in the world of immortal cultivation are generally divided into 5 grades, from small to large, namely residual veins, micro, small, medium, and large. Residual veins cannot be guaranteed. It is possible that the mineral veins only extend for 1 zang or even 1 inch. As long as the mineral veins are within 100 zang, they can be called residual veins. Small, medium, and large mineral veins have standards, and they can only be called so when they reach a certain number. However, for Ling Pengyun personally, even if this Zuanshu iron vein is a broken mineral vein and the mineral vein only extends for 1 zang, he is still happy. This means that he can earn at least 100 spiritual stones from it. Of course, he also hopes that the mineral vein is as big as possible. If you want to reveal the answer, you only need to explore it with your divine sense. Ling Pengyun spread to the surrounding area, but found that within the 65 zang that his divine sense could detect, it was all Zuanshu ore, without a single ordinary stone. This also shows that the scale of this Zuanshu mineral vein is not small, and the mineral deposits contained are extremely rich. This scale is at least a good microvein. It is possible that the size of this vein is more than 100 feet, reaching the scale of a small vein. Ling Pengyun said in surprise. However, Ling Pengyun was only happy for 3 breaths, and his smile faded, and he began to murmur. There are so many mineral deposits. Should I keep them for myself? Or should I report them to my family? Everyone has selfish desires, and Ling Pengyun is not a saint. I can indeed make a fortune by embezzling it, at least I can earn thousands of spirit stones from it, but it will take me several years to mine the Zhuangshu iron ore within the range of 65 meters. If I want to refine the raw ore into Zhuangshu iron, it will take even longer. Without 10 years of full-time mining, I am afraid that this plan of making a fortune cannot be completed. But this 10-year plan of making a fortune means that my cultivation will not improve at all in the past 10 years. I am not sure that I can break through to the perfection of key training before the age of 60. If I delay for another 10 years, even if I have thousands of spirit stones to buy resources to help me, I am afraid that there is not much hope of achieving perfection of key training before the age of 60. And if I report to the family, although I don't have to participate in mining, I will only get 10% of the benefits of this vein. According to the richness of this vein that I have explored at the limit of my divine consciousness, this vein is very likely to stretch for 100 meters. A 100-meter-long Zhuangshu iron vein is probably worth tens of thousands. It's like this. After countless predecessors and countless years of exploration, the world of immortal cultivation has long been found out that the probability of a cultivator breaking through the foundation building is the highest before the age of 60. After the age of 60, the blood and ki are depleted. Unless spiritual objects are used to make up for the blood and ki, the probability of breaking through the foundation building will be extremely low. And if the discovery of the mineral vein is reported to the family will mine it, and the discoverer can only get 10% of the profit of the mineral vein. This is the family rule of the Ling family, which has long been stipulated. In the face of these two problems, Ling Pengyun hesitated for nearly 100 breaths before deciding to report the mineral vein to the family. Although the benefits will be less, he can get a lot of resources without any effort. At the same time, this achievement can also pave the way for him to serve as a senior member of the family in the future. After thinking about this, Ling Pengyun did not plan to stay any longer. He collected the hundreds of kilograms of Zhuangshu ore scattered on the ground, intending to entrust the refiner to refine the magic weapon in the future. Afterwards, he followed a passage he had come from, left this place, returned to the demon python's lair, and then followed the entrance and exit passage of the lair to the dark river. At a dark river, Ling Pengyun looked at the huge corpse of the blue-scaled water python at the entrance and exit of the lair. His expression slightly moved, and he guessed secretly. This blue-scaled water python? I think it is also because of the rich water spirit contained in the Zhuangshu iron ore vein that it has broken through to this state. If it is given a few years or even a dozen years, it may be able to use the spirit of the ore vein to cultivate to the late stage of key training. It is sad for this demon python to meet me, but it is a blessing for me to meet it. But I have to say that this demon python's luck is still good. It can find an ore vein in such a place. It is really a great opportunity. Ling Pengyun said with a smile, and then he carried the corpse of the demon python and swam out along the water flow of the dark river. When entering this dark river, it is upstream, and when returning, it is downstream, and the speed is also much faster. In just one incense stick, Ling Pengyun left Qingshi Lake and returned to Qingshi village. He placed the corpse of the demon python in front of the villagers, comforted them that the demon python in Qingshi Lake had been removed, and told them not to worry. He left 5 pounds of demon python flesh and blood as a reward for Ling Dong's act of luring the demon python. Ling Pengyun told Ling Dong that he would be away for a while, and asked him to lead the Lingxiao guards to strengthen patrols around Qingshi village in the near future. Then he returned to Qingshi Mountain. Once he entered Qingshi Mountain, he placed the corpse of the demon python in a cave halfway up the mountain, summoned a large ball of ice, and froze the corpse of the demon python to prevent the flesh and blood of the demon python from rotting during his absence. Afterwards, he went to the top of the mountain, cast a cloud and rain technique to water the 6 acres of spiritual field, used the spiritual stone to open the mountain protection formation of Qingshi Mountain, and then cast a light body technique and rushed towards Lingxiao Mountain, the Ling clan's mountain, to inform the clan of the mineral vein news. He used the 1,000 miles communication talisman in his hand to inform his family that he was a little worried that the communication talisman would be intercepted by the monks, thus letting the mineral veins out. Thanks, the reward from the dream world. Thanks, time has reached. The monthly ticket from book friend 20210812134432483. Chapter 25. The True Scale of the Mineral Vein. Because he traveled day and night in a hurry, Ling Pengyun traveled more than 2,000 miles in just 2 days and rushed back to Lingxiao Mountain. As soon as he returned to Lingxiao Mountain, Ling Pengyun went to the General Affairs Hall halfway up the mountain and found Ling Ruda, the head of the General Affairs Hall and the elder of the family. Not long after Ling Pengyun found Ling Ruda was excited and hurriedly led Ling Pengyun to the top of Lingxiao Mountain, where the elders of the family entered. He found Ling Yunhong, who was in seclusion in the only cave on the top of the mountain, Lingxiao Cave Mansion. Ling Yunhong, who had just left Lingxiao Cave Mansion, saw Ling Ruda's excitement, and Ling Pengyun, who was supposed to be stationed in the low-level spiritual mountain outside, returned to the mountain at this time and found him. He was immediately confused and asked, "Pengyun, aren't you stationed in Qingshi Mountain? What are you two doing?" Yunhong, the cave mansion, said that this place is not safe. Ling Ruda looked around, a little vigilant, and said to Ling Yunhong mysteriously, "Ling Yunhong has been the head of the Ling family for decades and has a close relationship with Ling Ruda. Naturally, he knows what Ling Ruda meant by that. Ling Ruda is afraid that what he said will be heard by others, even his own family members. This means that what Ling Ruda wants to say must be extremely important. Come in." Ling Yunhong nodded seriously. The three of them sat at a small table in the hall of Lingxiao Cave Mansion. Ling Yunhong waved his hand to set up a soundproof band around Lingxiao Cave Mansion, and then asked Ling Ruda curiously, "11th uncle, what important things do you and Pengyun want to say? Pengyun, please tell me." Ling Ruda looked at Ling Pengyun and said. Ling Pengyun nodded slightly and told him about his discovery of a Zhuangshu iron ore vein that was at least microscopic in size. Is this true? Even though Ling Yunhong, who had the foundation building cultivation, heard that a blackwater iron vein had appeared in the territory, he was also shocked. He stood up from the stool and asked Ling Pengyun anxiously, "Third grandfather, everything my grandson said is true. Please look at this ore." Ling Pengyun patted his storage bag, summoned a blackwater iron ore he had collected before, and handed it to Ling Yunhong solemnly. Ling Yunhong saw that the ore handed over by Ling Pengyun was indeed the original blackwater iron ore, and he immediately believed in the matter of the vein. The matter of the vein was important, and Ling Pengyun had no reason to lie. He would know the truth after checking it out. "I didn't expect that there was a black iron vein in the dark river in the big lake next to Qingshi Mountain. When I led my people to wipe out the snake demon tribe in the mountain, I also entered the dark river in the lake to explore, but I didn't see the blue-scaled water python's nest. I think the blue-scaled water python also found the vein during Pengyun's stay in Qingshi Mountain. If it weren't for this demon python, I'm afraid that even if my Ling family had a vein, it would be difficult to find such an opportunity. In this way, the family has inherited your opportunity." Ling Yunhong smiled at Ling Pengyun. "No matter what kind of vein it is, there will be a special rock layer on its surface to cover the breadth of the vein. Generally speaking, veins are extremely difficult to find. Unless the vein is exposed on the ground, it is possible for cultivators to find it. As for the Zhuangshu iron ore vein in the dark river, Ling Yunhong, a foundation-building cultivator with a strong spiritual sense, did not find it. Instead, it was found by the blue-scaled water python with a very low spiritual sense. It might also be its opportunity. According to Ling Pengyun's own guess, it might be that the demon python coincidentally opened a nest at that location, accidentally shattered the rock layer covering the Zhuangshu iron ore vein, and was attracted by the pure water spirit of the ore vein. Then, it opened another passage in the nest and went deep into the ore vein. Third ancestor, you are too kind. As a member of the Ling family, I was born by the family. Without the family, there would be no me. My opportunity is no different from the family's opportunity." Ling Yunhong was very satisfied when he heard Ling Pengyun's answer. He secretly praised Ling Pengyun in his heart and said with a smile, "Pengyun, you have made great contributions this time. We will talk about the rewards and dividends for discovering the mineral veins later. Now, the most important thing is to explore the scale of the Zhuangshu iron ore vein. Come with me and lead the way for me." "Okay," Ling Pengyun replied. Seeing Ling Pengyun's response, Ling Yunhong immediately called Ling Pengyun out of Lingxiao Cave and called a fairy crane that was resting in the back mountain of Lingxiao and had reached the perfect key training realm. The Ling family has been a family for more than 200 years, which is longer than the time of ordinary foundation-building families. Naturally, they have some foundation. The fairy crane with perfect key training is the king of the small group of 12 fairy cranes that the Ling family has raised for more than 100 years. The fairy crane is a demon beast with a beautiful body and strong combat power. It is also famous among the demon beasts of the same level, especially in terms of speed, which is enough to be called the top level of the same level. According to the strength of the Fairy Crane King with perfect key training, it is no problem to travel 5,000 miles a day. Ling Yanhuang and Ling Pengyun rode on the Fairy Crane King and headed towards Qingshi Mountain. In just half a day, the two arrived at the Qingshi Lake. Under the leadership of Ling Pengyun, they entered the dark river at the bottom of the lake, entered the lair of the demon python, and found the Zhuanshu iron ore vein. Ling Yanhuang looked at the large area of Zhuanshu iron ore around the small passage, and was ecstatic. Even though he noticed that the ground of the passage was extremely clean and extremely abnormal, he guessed that Ling Pengyun might have picked up some ore fragments, but he didn't say much. Even if Ling Pengyun took it, it was what he deserved. In his heart, there is only this Zhuanshu iron ore vein now. For a newly established foundation building family, one more ore vein can play a huge role. He suppressed his joy, mobilized the powerful consciousness of the foundation building realm, and explored along the direction of the ore vein. 10 breaths later, after Ling Yanhuang explored the overall scale of this Zhuanshu iron ore vein, he could no longer suppress his joy and laughed out loud. The Ling family is so excited. Ha. 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 After a long while, he finally returned to normal. Ling Pengyun, who was standing by, also guessed a little based on Ling Yanhuang's expression. This Zhuanshu vein might be larger than the microscale he originally guessed, otherwise why would Ling Yanhuang have such an expression? He asked curiously. Third ancestor, how big is this Zhuanshu vein? Ling Yanhuang did not hide it. Ling Pengyun was the one who discovered this vein, so he should know the true situation of this vein. The Zhuanshu vein extends eastward for more than 480 feet, and the mineral deposits are extremely rich. It can be called a good small Zhuanshu iron vein. If all of this vein is mined, at least nearly 100,000 kilograms of Zhuanshu iron ore can be excavated. After quenching it into Zhuanshu iron, at least 8,000 to 9,000 kilograms. This vein is so large. Ling Pengyun exclaimed, with a smile on his face, and he began to calculate how many spiritual stones he could get from this vein. After some calculations, Ling Pengyun was very happy. Pengyun, you have made a great contribution this time. I think when you reported this vein to the family, you had already thought about the family organizing people to mine this vein, and you will get a share of the income from this vein. Ling Yanhuang said with a smile. Ling Pengyun did not say anything, but nodded in agreement. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.